is 123 of the John A. Wilson Building. This hearing is also being broadcast live on my website at janeeseward4.com/live. We held the public witness portion of this hearing on Friday, February 14th. All testimony and pre-hearing documents from that hearing and today's hearing are available now on the council's hearing management system website. Witnesses are reminded to please submit written copy of their testimony for the record by uploading it to the hearing management system. I gave my opening statement on Friday the 14th. So at this time, I am going to first see if I have any colleagues who are online, if they have opening statements. I don't see anyone online right now. A few colleagues have let me know they will be coming at some point during the hearing. So with that, joining us today is DPR Director Thene Freeman and Brent Cisco, Projects Planning and Design Officer for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Thank you, Director, for being here today with us in person. Before you all begin your testimony, it is the practice of this committee to swear in its government witnesses. So if you all, can you raise anybody who plans to testify, raise your right hand. Great. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give to the Committee on Facilities and Family Services is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Director Freeman, you may begin your testimony.
Good morning, Chairperson Janeese Lewis George, members of the Committee on Facilities, council members, constituents. My name is Thene Mack Freeman. I am honored to serve as the Director of the DC Department of Parks and Recreation. I want to thank Mayor Muriel Bowser and Deputy Mayor for Education, Paul Kine, for their continuous support and leadership. At DPR, we work intentionally and creatively to deliver programs that enhance the public's health, well-being, and quality of life, especially for our youth, seniors, individuals with varying abilities, families, and visitors. DPR's mission is to provide district residents with equitable access to high-quality recreational programs, services, and facilities across all 8 wards. We successfully fulfill this mission while constantly transforming to meet the public's complex needs and to support our government partners. Our recreators are multi-layered and multifaceted. We are teachers. We are problem solvers. We provide a safe and enriching space for young people. We shelter and support our residents through physical and emotional storms. We are DPR, the envy of the nation, delivering innovative program models and implementing new approaches to operations that serve as templates for jurisdictions all throughout the country. We are honored to hold an accreditation from the Commission for Accreditation of Park and Recreation Agencies, led by the National Recreation and Parks Association, the leading national organization dedicated to building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation. For the past 4 years, Washington, D.C. has been ranked the #1 park system in the nation by the Trust for Public Lands Park Score Index. We are proud that 99% of district residents live within a 10-minute walk of a park and that 18% of district's land is dedicated to parks and recreation. I am pleased to here today to share the story of our successes in fiscal year FY24 and fiscal year FY25 to date. At DPR, we have many reasons to be proud of our work. In FY24, we hosted over 2 million visitors at our recreation centers. We advanced strategic efforts to professionalize play, investing in our staff to build our capacity to deliver invaluable programs. We've brought memorable moments to hundreds of thousands of district residents across nearly 900 acres of parkland, 80 recreation centers, 36 aquatic facilities. Working in partnership with the Department of General Services, we have opened several first-of-its-kind facilities that provide tremendous community benefits. It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. At DPR, hashtag we play too much. I would now like to share a brief video highlighting and capturing work in our FY24 and 25 to date before talking more in detail about DPR's accomplishments and capital project highlights. Thank you to the team for putting this together, our award-winning team for putting this together, a compelling visual representation of our agency's impact.
Thank you. So Director, we're gonna get started just with some questions. I want to note that when my colleagues arrive, they will be doing 12-minute rounds. Oh, were you finished? Oh, that's what I was wondering. Okay. Actually, Director, you may continue your opening statement.
I appreciate your excitement. Professionalizing play. I like to discuss how we are professionalizing play at DPR. We are thrilled to partner with the George Washington University Center for Excellence in Public Leadership to deliver a youth development professional certification. Often, the individuals entrusted with the care and supporting our young people are not given the proper toolbox for success. Instead, they take whatever they have available, all of their strength and their resilience, and pour it into our youth. This certification is a life-changing opportunity that connects youth workers with cutting-edge education and access to thought leaders that will equip participants with skills, knowledge, and strategies to effectively mentor and support youth in various settings. It's a 9-month program, and we officially kicked it off this month with a cohort of 30 participants. I am so excited about this program, and I look forward to seeing how it will be a catalyst for a fresh wave of leaders to drive positive transformations in our communities. To further amplify the importance of individuals who work with our young people, on February 10th, Mayor Bowser issued a proclamation recognizing February as Youth Development Professionals Month in the District of Columbia, honoring the contributions of youth development professionals citywide. To commemorate this occasion, we're hosting a series of workshops for youth development professionals throughout the month of February. For more information, please visit our website. To further support the professionalism of DPR's workforce, I am pleased to share that I have created a new division within the agency dedicated to competitive and leisure activities. This new division will focus heavily on aquatics, sports, health, and fitness programs. We continue to operate our Junior Lifeguard Academy for youth ages 12 to 19, addressing critical aquatic skills gaps among our young people so that participants will gain the prerequisite skills needed to engage in lifeguard training for certification. We've also focused on including more young people ages 15 and up in our lifeguard training program. We recently trained 35 youth lifeguards who are now positioned to serve as DPR employees during this upcoming summer season. As we discuss DPR's approach to growing sports opportunities in the district, I also want to highlight the agency's efforts to support pickleball, the fastest growing sport in the nation. In response to the sport's explosive growth, DPR has provided places to play and programming. Since 2019, DPR has gone from having no pickleball facilities to 58 dedicated or blended outdoor courts and 19 indoor sites with 47 lined courts. That's a total of 105 pickleball courts in DPR's inventory. Over the next 4 years, we plan to increase our pickleball court inventory by over 50%, adding 30 outdoor and 30 indoor courts, bringing our total count to 165 courts. In FY '24 and '25, we engaged the pickleball community through a pickleball summit and advisory committee. We provide regular pickleball programming and special events that introduce new individuals to the sport, including youth pickleball clinics and large-scale indoor pickleball tournaments and celebrations at the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center. This past fall, we were excited to join the Trust for the National Mall and welcoming pickleball to America's front yard, giving many residents and visitors the chance to learn and enjoy playing the game. DPR remains an active member of NRPA, allowing DPR staff to learn from leading practitioners nationwide and share our models for outstanding programs. We are excited to be a part of NPR's special working group on workforce development to bring fresh approaches to recruitment and retention in the recreation field. I'm also excited to share that the district has formally joined the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association, forging a new regional partnership to further advance park, recreation, and environmental conservation efforts through networking, development, and training. As director of DPR, I've noticed opportunities to leverage the agency as a workforce development engine for the district. For example, we train future chefs through our culinary arts programming at Kenilworth Recreation Center. We are the largest host site for the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. Our aquatic staff gained CPR and first aid certifications, which prepare them to serve in future roles across our government agencies, such as Fire and Emergency Medical Services and the Metropolitan Police Department. DPR site staff develop strong working knowledge of the district from geographic landscape to the needs of various communities, which prepare them to serve the public in critical capacities, such as supporting emergency responses at the Office of Unified Communications. In addition, a part of being a professional is looking professional. In partnership with the museum, we introduced brand new DPR staff uniforms in 2024. We can all look great while supporting a DC-based Black-owned business. We also invest in health and well-being of our staff through a variety of wellness offerings, spanning from seasonal fitness engagements to self-care opportunities, as well as trauma and grief counseling in response to difficult situations our employees or visitors may have faced. I am beyond grateful for our DPR staff, thousands of volunteers and partner organizations that offer mission-critical support. For instance, this fall, DPR partnered with Wale and the Commanders to bring some of our youth football players to a premier national training camp. The youth participants had an opportunity to meet the Washington Commander players and participate in skill-building sessions, various football activities, and football drills. I'd also like to express my appreciation to Monumental Sports and Entertainment for their District of Play commitment. This multi-million dollar and multi-million year initiative focuses on growing youth sports in the district through investment in youth programming, the professional development of youth sport coaches, and improving public recreation facilities, including renovating DPR's outdoor skating rink at Watkins. Through DPR's partnership with Monumental, we will give 3,000 youth meaningful exposure to professional basketball through participation in junior NBA and junior WNBA programs, as well by attending Washington Wizards and Mystics games to witness the work of accomplished athletes firsthand. So thank you again to Monumental Sports for that. Memorable moments. The true impact of DPR can be seen in our ability to deliver memorable moments to residents of all ages. I'd now like to discuss the many ways DPR serves the public, including our efforts to reach and support youth, girls, and seniors. In FY24, I am proud to report that DPR hosted nearly 600,000 visitors at our aquatic facilities. We provided over 200,000 meals through our food and nutrition programs. We issued over 40,000 permits to youth and adult athletic groups, schools, local organizations, and families. We engaged 112,000 participants in special events like our legendary Chuck Brown Day and Fresh Start 5K. Through Fit DC, we continue to make premier fitness offerings accessible to all with events like Her Story 5K, which is coming up, Yoga Fest, Pride Fits, and Juneteenth fitness activations. In response to the district's public safety needs, we've more than doubled the number of mobile recreation activations from 300 in FY23 to 700 in FY24, ensuring young people have safe places to gather in their communities. In FY24, we focused on growing our interagencies partnerships, hosting 10 late night times Beat the Streets events with MPD, organizing Halloween candy drop events with FEMS, and supporting citywide attractions like the Department of Public Works annual Truck Touch event and key education sector events like EdFest. The district's annual public school fair, working in partnership with Mayor Bowser, the DC Public Library, and downtown DC, we introduced Holiday Hype. We introduced this in the downtown corridor by hosting an epic family event at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library. DPR helps provide creative art outlets for youth ages 13 to 17 to support individual expression and prevent gun violence by supporting Art for Change through our partnership with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, led by Executive Director Quelly Sneed. We are proud to be working with our partners at the Department of Employment Services as part of their HBCU public service programming, creating a pipeline of students from Howard University and the University of the District of Columbia to work in public service roles across District of Columbia, including DPR. We are incredibly excited about our work with the Learn 24 network, led by the Deputy Mayor for Education, to support the creation of My After School DC portal, a one-stop shop for families to explore and register the district's robust out-of-school time program offerings. DPR is proud to join the DME's Office of Out-of-School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes and DC Public Schools as the first group of agency partners that will connect our programming to the portal. Youth. Throughout the year, DPR engages thousands of district youth through meaningful programs and activities. We've supported young people's well-being through events like our Supreme Teams, Healing Retreat, Breast Cancer Awareness Pink Parties, and Love Youth Healing Fest. We connect youth with the environment through our sleepaway camp experiences at Camp Riverview in Scotland, Maryland, and our Roving Leaders Fishing Derby in Southwest DC. We make unique and specialized programming accessible to all residents, such as our radio broadcasting program at Deanwood Recreation Center, which recently won an Emmy Award and a Mayor's Arts Award for Excellence in Media Arts. We continually reimagine our youth program offerings to reflect young people's evolving interests. For instance, in FY24, DPR's Young Men Future Leaders program hosted a car show, allowing youth across the city to meet, enjoy customized cars, rank, and receive awards for their work. In the summer of 2024, we offered nearly 8,000 camp slots for children and youth with programs such as Aqua Day, Little Steam Engine, Future, EGOT, Camp, Boost Camps, and more. Through our lottery system and reduced rate opportunities, we continue to increase equitable access to affordable camps across DC. We're happy to share that the summer 2025 camp lottery application is now live on DPR's website, dpr.dc.gov. Please keep in mind that DPR camps are not just for summer, with offerings like our Winter Wonder Camp, Spring Break Camp, and our recent Fun Days during professional development days at the schools. Outside of programs directly facilitated by DPR, we supported the district's infrastructure for high-quality youth engagement opportunities through our Recreation for All community grants. This unique grant opportunity allows local youth-serving organizations to expand their impact through the development of new recreation programs and by providing critical support to existing programs such as funding for travel, equipment purchases that will help maximize the organization's ability to have a transformative impact on the youth that they serve. In FY24, we issued 105 Recreation for All grants to organizations that served a total of 8,000 youth across all 8 wards, with a total investment of $2.9 million. Our FY25 Recreation for All grants process has begun, and we have received to date nearly 400 applications. Girls. As the director of DPR, I am passionate about finding ways for the agency to ensure girls' sports are a priority and not an afterthought. This work requires engaging women leaders in critical conversations about athletics. I am excited to share that DPR's newest athletic director is a courageous woman leader with extensive experience supporting the development of girls' sports and competitive youth programs. Since 2023, DPR has expanded our girls' sports programming to include gymnastics, volleyball, lacrosse, flag football, and boxing. Through engagement opportunities such as clinics, DPR connects with girls who may have had little athletic experience and introduces them to new sports, for which many girls have since developed a love and a newfound passion. In particular, we see a growing interest in DPR girls lacrosse and flag football programs. We also increase the visibility of girls' sports through DPR's annual events like National Girls in Sports Day, which DPR honored with the Girls and Women in Sports Day Expo at the Deanwood Recreation Center on February 1st, engaging nearly 300 girls and their families. Seniors. Another group of DPR constituents that are near and dear to my heart, affectionately known as our seenagers. DPR senior programming continues to provide meaningful opportunities for older adults in the district to foster social connections, keep their minds and bodies active, and contribute to the rich fabric of our communities. I'm so proud that in 2024, we brought Senior Fest to the yard at the University of the District of Columbia with 1,500 participants. We engaged 300 seniors through our senior games. We provided exciting and high-quality programming opportunities through our senior drip pool parties, senior spa days, senior cruise, and our senior camp, our unforgettable senior camp at Camp Riverview. I look forward to continuing to serve our seniors through cherished and innovative programming in FY24. I'd now like to discuss our capital project highlights. I'm tremendously proud of DPR's capital improvement project efforts, guided by Ready to Play. Our 20-year master plan, DPR addresses critical gaps in services while ensuring all residents have access to beautiful, high-quality recreation facilities designed to meet their needs. With a significant capital commitment, DPR oversees a 6-year capital project budget of $500 million. DPR has a portfolio of nearly 130 projects, with 62 projects in planning, 40 projects actively in design, and 18 projects under construction. 7 are in the closeout stage. It has been a banner year for DPR capital projects. In particular, I wish to highlight 3 new trailblazing facilities that became available for public use in FY24 and 25. In February 24, DPR got steady with our Stead Park Recreation Center, revitalized a gym. Stead is the first net zero facility in the agency's inventory, which will generate enough renewable energy to offset its annual energy consumption using solar panels and geothermal wells. Developed through a $15.4 million district investment and a $500,000 gift from local organization Friends of Stead Park. The facility features a new fitness center, multi-purpose rooms, a demonstration kitchen, a basketball court, a playground, and a spray park. In conjunction with this project, a complete replacement of Stead's turf athletic field and walking track is currently underway and will be available this summer. Reservoir Park Recreation Center, located in Ward 5. In June 24, we celebrated the grand opening of the new Reservoir Park Recreation Center and aquatic facility located at the former McMillan Sand Filtration Site. This facility is a truly unique asset with its expansive outdoor amenities that include over 6 acres of park space, 2 spray parks, a playground, a large grass field, a walking path, complete with outdoor fitness equipment, a fully restored historic fountain, and an expansive outdoor amphitheater space. The Recreation Center features a multi-purpose room, community spaces, and an indoor pool where we offer aquatics programming, lap lanes, and leisure swimming. I want to thank Mayor Bowser for the $137 million investment and for her unwavering commitment, which made this project possible. I also wish to thank our district government partners, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Deputy Mayor Nina Albert, Department of General Services Director, Director Delano Hunter, Office of Planning Director, Director Anita Cozart, and their staff for their assistance in planning and constructing this unique DPR site. Number 3, Joy Evans Therapeutic Center, located in the beautiful Ward 7. DPR opened this new $40.4 million facility through much anticipation and a much-needed facility that's designed to serve as the region's premier therapeutic recreation center. It spans 37,000 square feet over 7.5 acres of land and will serve individuals of all ages and all abilities. The building utilizes a biophilic design, which emphasizes healing through connections with nature. The facility features therapy, wellness, and activity rooms tailored to diverse needs, including a sensory room, a therapeutic pool and spa, a senior lounge, a tech lounge, a caregiver lounge, a fitness center, multi-purpose rooms, a training kitchen, an arts and crafts room, a full-size gymnasium. The outdoor spaces are equally inclusive and innovative, with 2 playgrounds featuring adaptive equipment for children ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, as well as a splash pad, a sensory garden, a geocaching station, outdoor fitness equipment, walking paths, and open park spaces designed to foster community gatherings. The Joy Evans Therapeutic Recreation Center represents a transformative step in creating inclusive spaces for all district residents. This state-of-the-art facility provides essential therapeutic and recreational services while fostering social and emotional connections, promoting wellness, and sparking pure joy among residents and visitors. Our Therapeutic Recreation Division is thrilled to activate this gorgeous new space with recreation and athletic programs for residents of all ages, including the adaptive programs and facilities for people with varying abilities by addressing the needs of individuals in a continuum specialized therapeutic recreation program services. In operating this new facility, we are excited to work with our district partners, Department of Disability Service, led by Director Andrew Reese, and the Department of Aging Community Living, led by Director Chiron P.W. Hines, to maximize programming opportunities and enhance residents' well-being and quality of life. I wish to express my deep appreciation to Joy Evans and her surviving family for allowing her legacy to serve as a pivotal reflection point for us to transform the ways we serve with varying abilities. I also wish to thank Vincent Gray, lifelong public servant, former mayor, and most recently, former Ward 7 council member, for his steadfast commitment to this project. Small projects. Along with our larger facilities, DPR continues to leverage our small park spaces as opportunities to enrich and activate our communities. In FY '24 and '25, we completed several small park renovations, including the following: 14th Oak and Ogden Park in Ward 1, 8th and Massachusetts Avenue Triangle Park in Ward 6, Cooper Gordon Park in Ward 2, completed in partnership with DC Water, Crestwood Park, located in Ward 4, Spielberg Park, located in the beautiful Ward 7, Unity Park, located in Ward 1, Walter Pierce Park Historic Signage, located in Ward 1. At these parks, our capital team collaborated with DGS and community members to implement strategic improvements such as new play structures, benches, and picnic tables. These projects transformed underutilized spaces into inviting outdoor hubs for play and positive social connection. I said it previously at DPR, we play too much, but that's a great thing. In FY '24 and '25, DPR prioritized ensuring the district's children and our fur babies have a safe place to play. Working with our partners at DGS, we completed 2 playground replacement and 2 playground renovations at Oxen Run Park in Ward 8, and installed new playground surfacing at Sherwood Recreation Center in Ward 6. In addition, we opened the very first dog park east of the river, Texas Avenue Dog Park, and performed beautiful replacement projects at the popular S Street Dog Park in Ward 2 and the park at Ledroit Dog Park. In all of our work as public servants, it is essential that we keep our lens focused on the individuals we served. For this reason, in FY '24, I created DPR's first ever Kids Playground Tester Program, where local children can test out new DPR equipment and provide their unfiltered feedback. It is truly honest. To date, we've tested 5 new parks, including Spielberg Park, Oxen Run Park, Joy Evans Park. We look forward to additional engagement with our playground testers throughout FY25. Furthermore, we have deepened our capacity and improved our process for conducting community engagement regarding DPR capital projects. In addition to our project-specific meetings, we introduce quarterly ward-by-ward project updates to allow residents to stay up to date on DPR's many capital improvement efforts. In conclusion, I appreciate the opportunity to testify regarding DPR's performance during FY24 and FY25 to date. Thank you, Chairperson Lewis George, the rest of the Committee on Facilities, and your staff for your leadership and support. I want to take a moment to express my deepest appreciation to the entire DPR team, who are essential to the agency's success. I am joined by my colleague Brent Cisco, DPR's Capital Projects Planning and Design Officer. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Director Freeman, for that very thorough presentation and opening. We will get started now with our questions. My colleague Zach Parker notified me as a meeting soon, so I'm actually going to let him go first for the first round. Council members will have 12-minute rounds. I will recognize him to see if he has an opening statement, and then he may begin his questions. Councilmember Parker, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairperson Lewis George. I will bypass opening statement and jump into questions. And it's good to see you, Director. I want to cover a lot of ground. One of the things I want to first go over are the construction timelines for various Ward 5 projects. Obviously, DPR just had a community meeting in Ward 5 where you all provided updates on the status of projects. One thing that strikes me is that across the board, everything seems delayed. And perhaps that is happening across the city. And so at a high level, I want to just get a sense for what are the reasons at a macro level for the delays on various projects?
So that's a great question. As you know, many of our projects, because they're funded in the out years, so what we're seeing in most of our projects is that the cost to build and the cost of design is not the same as the cost to build. So it's designed at the price point, but when it comes time to actually purchase those materials and to actually implement that design, we're seeing that that's where the cost variances are changing.
And I get that. I'm looking at a list of projects. So let's look at Fort Lincoln Recreation Center. Neighbors were promised that DPR would break ground on that facility last fall. There was no update. There was no community engagement. Even my office reached out to inquire about it. There was no update or communication. And now we're being told that groundbreaking is scheduled for early spring of this year. And so while I am sensitive to the shifts in cost and financial pressures, that doesn't necessarily explain why the agency isn't better communicating with residents about the status of these projects.
So I appreciate that. I understand that. And that's why I initiated the ward by ward meetings for that purpose, because to your point, constituents are calling your office, they're calling us, and they should hear something. And so we've resolved that with these ward by ward updates.
But to be fair, the ward by ward meetings, which are great, just happened in Ward 5, I want to say 2 weeks ago. The project was slated to break ground last fall. So again, we had a situation for weeks, months. There was no update and no communication. I want to stay focused on timeline, but for Fort Lincoln, can you give a concrete timeline when neighbors should expect the groundbreaking? I see here that it says late winter, early spring, but I imagine that could mean February. That could also mean June. Do you have a sense of when that groundbreaking may begin?
So it's currently in permitting phase. We're working with our partners at DGS, to have those timelines so that we can report accurately. And we will continue to work with our partners at DGS And we will be intentional about reaching out. And, again, we do have the ward by wards, but because we do them, 2 wards a month, it does maybe for a resident who wants constant updates. So we'll find a cadence
Yes.
that
And I would
responds to
even
that.
ask, as if you all could share with our council office, we can do some of the legwork
Okay.
and communicating out to keep residents at bay. But it's hard when we don't have an update, when neighbors are upset or up in arms. And in Fort Lincoln in particular, the Hagen's facility has been closed down. At the same time, neighbors have been looking for the groundbreaking of this new facility. So they just feel as though they're at a disadvantage.
Well, I will tell you,
yeah.
I've been in conversation with Director Hunter about Hagen's and how we can a short-term solution for the inside of the facility, just to give the residents a place to meet. We do open it in the summer because we're able to provide the cooling. The winter is a little challenging because of the HVAC and there's no heating. So we're looking at what we could do potentially by bringing something in, and I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay. I'm not going to go through all of these, but excited that renovations at Dwight Mosley Field are moving forward. One of the things that I'm also struck by is that I was able to secure funding in the fiscal year 24 budget for parks in Carver Langston and at Riggs Park. Neighbors in Riggs Park have been asking for a park at Riggs in South Dakota for over 10 years. In fact, as it's part of a small area plan in that area, we have that the design for that park will begin in summer 2025. With that type of timeline, when might neighbors expect construction to begin?
So as you said, design will start late summer 2025. I don't want to expressly commit to anything with no, because I want to, I want us to,
Can you help me understand, if we secured funding in 2023 for the fiscal year 24 budget, we are now in 2025, about to begin work on fiscal year 26 budget, and we haven't even designed what that park might look like for neighbors who have been waiting for more than 10 years. What is the cadence internally? It begins, and I don't mean this critically, but it feels like DPR is receiving money for various projects and you all are kind of moving money around to make various projects move forward. And I worry that some of these projects have no plan to move forward.
No. So, of course, when funding, because capital projects are multi-year projects, so having funding in the budget inserted for FY24, it still puts that project in line. And so, again, there's an opportunity so that maybe residents understand, just because you get the money in 24 doesn't mean that the project will be up and operational in 24.
I do get that, but we haven't even begun the design process and it's been 2+ years. And we're saying for the park at Riggs in South Dakota, design will begin in 2025. Let's stretch that out another year or two. We're looking now summer of 2027 that a park that I don't know how many square feet, but it's not a large area. I'm concerned about the timelines here, and I know you all have a lot under your agency umbrella. I'm just concerned about the timeliness of construction and renovations, not just in Ward 5, but across the city.
Well, I think it's typical to expect, that your project will happen in the out year and not the year that the funding is put in the budget. And so, but I do hear you. I will work with our partners at DGS so that we can strengthen our communications and appropriately set the expectations for when constituents should see a project that in the year that it was funded.
Yes, I mean, that would be helpful. If in addition to these timelines that give a status update, neighbors can have a sense of when might we begin seeing movement on this, because we too are getting a lot of requests from neighbors in Carver Langston who are excited. Oh, wow, there's going to be a park in this empty lot one day. what's the status? And then it's hard for us to provide updates. I want to switch gears to maintenance requests. At two of our facilities, Turkey Thicket and Edgewood, we receive a slew of maintenance requests. At Edgewood, which is a citywide facility, as you know, we received word that in the gym, only one of the treadmills was working. I think the request for that facility stretches for months. And then we have the pool and hot tub at Turkey Thicket that is a mainstay for our seniors and residents who are using Turkey Thicket on a daily basis. I get that there's a difference between Turkey Thicket and Edgewood. Turkey Thicket is an older facility, and frankly, I think it may be coming up on its lifespan, and therefore there are a lot of things that are routinely breaking down at the facility. What I want to get a better sense of is what is the cadence between your agency and DGS in prioritizing maintenance requests at citywide facilities?
So DPR, I believe in FY23 was able to secure our level 1 maintenance so that we can do some stuff in-house. And so we're working on the smaller things that we can fix. There are some things that we can fix. There are some things that we have to go through DGS to get fixed. Something,
And when you say, I'm sorry, my clock is ticking. When you say we can fix, that means you're contracting out yourself.
no, internally, we have our level 1 maintenance staff who
I
are
see.
all
I
DPR
see.
employees who can fix the door.
And so with that, some of the testimony we heard here, some of the complaints I hear is about the conditions of the bathrooms at Turkey Thicket, shower curtains, making sure the drains are clean. That's something that your in-house team should be able to own.
Absolutely. And so our internal team is responsive, and because of its popularity and usage,
Yes.
we are fixing things continuously, and we're fixing the same things continuously. And so where one may believe that a shower curtain has not been fixed, it actually has been.
And I do know that. I think I've done now 3 visits to Turkey Thicket with your team, with others, and there are changes. And then in a month, I'm getting the same complaints. And so I'm not sure outside of a full renovation of the facility what the fix is there, but I would ask if your team could look at the conditions specifically at Turkey Thicket and then the outstanding maintenance requests between that facility and Edgewood. In my last minute, I wanted to turn to the communal farms program, and they do great work in wards 1, 5, and 7. In fact, I led with the Council of Governments a tour of farmlands across the city, including Letterer Farms in Ward 7, but there's only one staff person. And I
Yes.
think I brought this up last year, and we will try to secure more funding. But I want to hear from you, what efforts, if any, is your team leading to expand the capacity of this essential team?
So thank you. So the one staff person is primarily all that we need, because it is just that, a communal farm. So the staff person is leading the volunteer, it's really the community's farm. And so the staff person is more like the conduit to ensure that the volunteers have the supplies and stuff that they need, but it should be run by the community. And so I think we have about 45 certified volunteers, but it really is the staff person should serve as the coordinator of the volunteers.
But that seems like a lot of responsibility from one person to manage across the city.
No, because all of there's really only 2 farms that DPR is really operating. The rest are run by the community. So when you look at it as a space of where you can come get seeds, where you could, a repository of rakes and shovels and gloves, that's the design.
I got you.
So we should be recruiting more volunteers to support.
Okay, I got you. That is something I will be looking at this budget cycle. Chairperson Lewis George, thank you for being so generous. If I could, 3 very concrete requests. One is As we are approaching the timelines for various Ward 5 projects, but I would ask on behalf of my colleagues, can your team create a cadence with council members' office to provide an update? I know you're doing the ward by ward meetings. I would say keep doing that. I feel as though sometimes those aren't as timely as the status updates. So for instance, if things shift by a month or two, it helps us to be able to communicate that out. Two, if your team can look at the level 1 maintenance request at Turkey Thicket in particular, namely the bathroom areas, as you know, our seniors in particular are reaching out to my office weekly,
Yes.
and they're using that facility a lot, and they love the facility. And then the last thing would be the usage of Edgewood rec, which is a citywide rec.
Mhm.
We continue to have complaints about the
Correct.
tension between citywide usage and community usage.
Yes.
As well as outstanding maintenance requests, but I'll follow up with you with those specifics.
Thank you. And I know at one time you and I were doing our check-ins. We can
Yes.
get back to
I
that.
would
And I
love
think
that.
that will solve for some
I
of
would love
your
that.
questions.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Director Freeman, feel free to come back after your meeting if you would like. Okay. Uh, Director Freeman, want to get started here. Let's start with lifeguard staffing. That's an issue that has come up a number of times. DPR's fiscal year 24 KPIs note 53 lifeguards were trained in fiscal year 24 compared to the 122 in fiscal year 23 and 406 in fiscal year 2022. Why were so few lifeguards trained last year? And I heard in your testimony about some of the training you guys are doing. What is DPR doing to recruit and train new lifeguards?
Thank you. So we train all of our lifeguards. All of our lifeguards are required to have ongoing training. Additionally, we train all of the seasonal lifeguards that we hire. What I am hearing is that we retained many of those lifeguards. So that may have been new staff
Okay.
as opposed to staff who currently exist and just have their recertification or their their monthly trainings.
Okay, so that number, you're saying that number is reflective of the fact that there were more lifeguards who were retained. So
Correct.
they didn't need that initial training.
Correct.
But what is the training schedule for lifeguards?
They have monthly in-service trainings.
Okay.
So
got
once
it.
a month, they're doing in-service trainings.
Okay, and then one of the confusions is like lifeguards who are employed during the summer versus lifeguards employed in the fall and winter. What is that? I guess, because it seems like there's a large group that is just only employed during the summer. Is that correct?
Correct. We do hire because we open up several outdoor pools.
Right.
And so we increase our staffing footprint by 125 to support with summer operations. We also use that summer operations lifeguards that we hire to roll over and fill vacant positions as attrition happens. And so what you're seeing is the 45, those are new individuals that are completely new to us.
Gotcha. So right now, how many lifeguards are sort of permanent DPR employees, not seasonal DPR employees?
125.
125. And so, and if you are, and then the 45, how many additional do we put in during the summer? 45, is that the number?
Repeat your question.
How many do we put in during the summer, the temporary lifeguards?
We usually hire nearly up to 100.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they're just there for that temporary period.
Correct.
And then they can roll on as permanent if you have vacancies in your permanent lifeguards. is what
Correct.
you're stating. Okay.
So because as you know, many of the lifeguards that we hire in the summer are in college,
Okay.
even in high school. Some of them are DC Wave swimmers. Some of them are just young people who, athletes who, can fit the criteria to be lifeguards.
Okay. So I guess when I look at the KPI, then that indicates to me we are, as far as vacancies go, with full-time lifeguards, we though we don't have any vacancies for right now for lifeguards who are permanent lifeguards throughout the year.
We may have one or two, as attrition happens, but it's not a whole list of them.
It's not a
Correct.
mass number.
And then some of the pins where you see a lot of pins, we hold them so that we can hire against them for summer positions.
Understood. So that's what we're seeing. Okay.
So if you see a large number,
Right.
that's what we use to fill the 110 through those pins.
Understood. Okay, because that's what I was seeing and was concerning me. Got you. Wanted to ask, when we look at pool closures and reasons covering pool closures, we received sort of a list. Most of them, we've had emergency maintenance, pool chemistry issues, and staffing. So I think we've covered staffing as sort of, you are adequately staffed, so there shouldn't be a reason why pool closures are happening through staffing. Talk me through when we have emergency maintenance or pool chemistry issues with, and how do we announce those closures to the public?
So outdoor pools, the chemistry can be thrown off by a lot of things, including rain. It just happens. Sometimes there's runoff when there's, large rain in the area, or contaminants. So usually we're able to adjust same day. So we normally don't close for pool chemical issues unless we absolutely have to. Those are times when the turbidity is extremely high. Chlorine produces a chemical. That chemical can be a dangerous inhalant for anyone who is asthmatic or an employee, really, because a constituent coming in for 45 minutes or 2 hours to swim, it might not bother. But for an employee who's there during an 8-hour shift, in instances where that is, or the humidity is too high in the building, we will make adjustments and close the facility just to air it out, just to level set it before we reopen it, because of course, safety is first. I also want to go back and correct something. There are 145 lifeguards, and it's weekly in service and not monthly.
Gotcha. And so, how do you announce these closures to the public? Because one of the things that kept coming up is, internally, somebody would say, oh, the pool is closed due to staffing, which is why I've been harping on the staffing. But then sometimes it'll say, DPR will say it's a maintenance issue, and someone internally might say it's a staffing issue. It sounded like there's just more maintenance issues people are just saying it's a staffing issue. Do they get a Nixle update?
Absolutely. So it
Okay.
is a Nixle, and I will tell you, there are times when we have to close the pool because body fluids entered it. So we have to close the pool to deal with that. There's a whole process
Gotcha.
to eliminate the contaminants. We will send a Nixle if you're at the pool and you're ready to come in and you see all this water and then it's an emergency issue, you can't enter the pool at that time.
Got it. One thing I'll just ask is that, because who gets the Nixle updates?
Everybody,
Everybody.
Everyone who is who has said, hey, DPR, sign me up. We
Gotcha.
also last year introduced in real time a Splash That page, which was DPR pools and splash pads.
Okay.
Where you could find out in real time what was happening. And constituents were checking it. And as soon as a pool went down, we would issue a Nixle. As soon as it was at capacity, we would issue a Nixle, or we would update it on our website. We encourage the public to check it. We also post it on all of our socials.
Got it. I want to ask about, speaking of lifeguards, I want to ask, last year I asked at the February 22nd performance oversight hearing for a copy of DPR's after action report of the incident leading to the death of lifeguard Jasmine Jefferson. You all said in that hearing you provided. I have not seen it yet, and I think it is unacceptable that we have not seen it. We're back here a year later.
Thank you. As you know, Jasmine Jefferson's situation was a tough situation for all of us, yourself included, as she was a Ward 4 constituent. We do not, so currently there is potential litigation. And so we are not at liberty to issue any reports regarding that situation. I will take the time to share with you what we've done since that. We have re-emphasized employee training to share with employees the importance of using the resources available to them for PFL, FMLA, or reasonable accommodations, so that we can ensure employees feel safe with discussing very sensitive matters that may potentially affect them at work.
Got it. I understand employee training piece. Has there been changes sort of to ratio of lifeguards, training in that respect, and making sure, and that's why I started with coverage, because that seemed to be a issue. And so
So
have you changed anything regarding lifeguard coverage of any of yours? And including the people, making sure the lifeguards aren't doing the duties of someone who is like the front desk staff at a pool.
So I appreciate the question. Jasmine Jefferson's situation is extremely sensitive, as it's extremely sensitive, and additional lifeguards was not a factor
Gotcha.
in her situation. And so, yeah.
Got it. What have additional lifeguards not factored there, but taking out of context of Miss Jefferson, do we include lifeguards? Lifeguards are not included at front as staff.
Absolutely.
Front desk staff are not included as the numbers for ratios for lifeguards. So for example, if I go to Roosevelt Pool, there's somebody working the front desk in the morning if I want to go for a swim.
Correct.
That person is not counted as adequate staffing as it relates to a lifeguard servicing the pool, is what I'm saying.
No, that is a CSR, which is
Got
a
it.
customer service rep.
Right.
That is not a lifeguard, nor is that a pool operator.
Okay, that's what I meant. That's what I want to make sure, that we don't have anybody who is in that field counting towards the number of people adequately supervising pool time.
So one thing that we've asked our lifeguards to do is to not sit in the chair if they don't feel well. We've also asked them because they have the option to work their zone on foot and to walk. And so we've asked them if there's no person in the pool, that they're not necessarily in the chair, that they're manning the deck by walking around the deck. So we think that some of those supports could potentially help.
Understood. I'll just say this, I understand the litigation perspective from the executive side. I wish there was a way that you all could share some report with the committee, specifically, even if it's a redacted report. It makes it hard for me to say that I'm doing oversight of this issue, because without seeing the report, I am guessing. So you're like, that wasn't a factor. We're guessing as to what could have prevented this, and to ensure that. So I would like to see if there can be some conversation happening with general counsel about a redacted report, something that allows me to be able to make sure my oversight is that we are doing the oversight as a committee we need to, while respecting the litigation process the executive is in.
Understood. I'd also like to take the time just to send my prayers to her family.
Thank you. Okay, we'll follow up on that. Want to come to a lighter issue here, pickleball. We had a number of witnesses regarding, several witnesses regarding pickleball. What is your plan to increase more capacity for pickleball, which came up? What is the plan, and is it a written plan that can be shared with the public?
So I heard the testimony of the advocacy group, and I do receive it as an opportunity for us to engage them. what I realize is they have been in constant contact with our team directly. And so having the one or two or three leaders in constant contact weekly with our person does not necessarily, that information may not flow to the larger pool. So I recognize that as an opportunity for us to engage and ensure that they are receiving not one-off information and updates, but updates directly from us. And so we're going to work to address that. We have about 700 individuals who signed up on our website to be in touch with regarding pickleball updates. So we're going to update that community regularly. As I shared in my opening remarks, we currently are leading the charge for pickleball, and we are going to expand our courts this year and next by we'll have 165 pickleball courts. And so we've increased our inventory by over 50% already. We added 30 outdoor and 30 indoor courts. So 165, there are 47 line courts and indoor spaces, and 19 outdoor. So we have a lot of pickleball, but we know as the popularity has grown, we don't have enough for the advocacy group and the community. So we're working to resolve that while also being respectful of the tennis community so that they don't lose their space and feel like they have to compete with pickleball.
Understood. The testimony was that the pickleball advisory board was formed, but hasn't met since May of 2024. Why was it formed and then sort of neglected? And when is it your next intent to host a meeting with that board?
So there's a meeting scheduled this week, and we will have a regular cadence going forth.
Got it. We were told there's only 2 pickleball capacities east of the river. In testimony, is there a plan within the expansion to 165 to increase the pickleball capacity east of the river? I think Deanwood was mentioned as potential site for pickleball expansion.
Yes. Go ahead, Brent. You want to speak to that?
Sure. Good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. So the mayor invested $750,000. We're
That
working
was my next question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we actually got bids back. We're supposed to say DGS received bids back last week, and we're working with that contractor to expend those funds. And they're saying those projects should be complete late spring, early summer. So we should realize the value of that 750 very soon. We are, as the director mentioned, working on expanding our courts east of the river, and that includes outdoor courts at Eli Place. We're working in coordination with MPS for additional pickleball courts at Anacostia Recreation Center. I think that's 8 additional courts. And also with every capital project that we do, for instance, the new Anacostia Recreation Center at Ketchum, we are lining our indoor gymnasiums to have up to 3 indoor pickleball courts per location. So we're sort of attacking it from different ways, from capital projects to individual like the 750 and other ways. So we definitely have a plan, and I'm working through that plan. Happy to share that with folks.
Okay. I was gonna ask about the 750 that was appropriated. That was in October 2023. So it sounds like it's active. I was asking, has it been actively used? It sounds like bids came back, has come back or are coming back.
They came back.
They came back
last week, right?
Okay, and those funds will be expended for late spring and early summer.
Yes, ma'am.
In doing that work, one thing that also came up, and that'll be a theme in all of my sections, was community engagement. We heard the Jefferson renovation field. I think there's a petition of about 200 plus people. I think it's going from 6 courts to 4 courts, and there's a question of limited egress and how that would impact the ability for it to thrive. Will you meet with Jefferson Field community before any renovations begin in light of their safety concerns?
We absolutely are. I'm happy to talk with the folks and meet with the folks.
Okay.
I think there's a misconception about Jefferson courts in that people view this as we're taking away actual pickleball time, but we're actually expanding access by 40%. by providing 4 dedicated pickleball courts instead of the 2 they have now, plus limited use of the tennis court. So I think if we have an opportunity to explain sort of the rationale
Yeah.
behind what we're doing, I think it would help people
Okay.
understand the situation.
All right.
Yes.
Well, the committee ask is, I guess, the ask of the community, if you all could schedule a meeting with the Jeffersonville community before any renovations begin, just to hear their safety concerns and make any adjustments as would be necessary.
Sure.
Thank you. Director, I want to go from pickleball to the gardens and greenhouses. We heard a lot of testimony, um, uh, given the loss of the greenhouse, which created challenges for volunteers. And I understand you said to Councilman Parker, we should be recruiting more volunteers, but it sounds like in addition to volunteers, we need somebody to manage the volunteers. You can't just have 1 million volunteers and one person managing.
So there are 3 community garden specialists. Is a total of 4. So we also have a newly environmental manager who just onboarded, who, so in addition to him and the community garden specialist, um, I think I'm confident that we have what we need to serve.
So Josh Singer was mentioned by a number of people. What's his role?
He supports with the community garden program,
But like what, so is he
supports with volunteers,
supports? Okay, so is the new FTE that you mentioned
manage Josh,
is going to manage Josh?
correct,
Okay,
and the other garden specialist. I appreciate the support that he has, but there are other staff members that work in that area,
mm-hmm.
and so they're all just as vital and important to the work.
Okay, so how many Joshes are there? And
3
by Joshes, I mean positions. Three.
positions, 3.
3.
Mhm.
Okay, in addition to him, and that's servicing the entire DC sort of greenhouse garden community.
Correct.
Okay. It sounds like given what what Ward 7 experiences as far as gaps in food
Mhm.
and insecurity, that this was a critical piece of their community. And when will the greenhouse be built back?
We're working through risk management. We have a insurance claim, and
Okay.
so we're working through our risk management on that.
Okay. Whenever you have updates, I think, can you share that, especially myself and I think the Ward 7 council member, we had a number of constituents come out and testify, and it seems like this is a program that people really believe in, and it's servicing the community in a way. I put in funds for Twin Oaks Community Garden. And it took a significant amount of time just to figure out what was going on with that project. What is the status now?
I happen to have your list here, all your projects.
Oh, great.
This is for the roof replacement.
Yes.
I have this as actually in procurement to hire someone to do the roof. I actually don't have the dates. I'm
Got
happy
it.
to follow up with DGS to get those dates, so.
All right. The community, I mean, it's been going back and forth forever with Twin Oaks Community Garden, and I just never understood why it would take so long to
Just for the roof.
get the roof done. It feels like it's just taking a significant time. I think we got an email and someone was like, the holdup. One time somebody sent an email, I wasn't on your side, but on the contractor side, saying Councilmember Lewis George was the holdup. And I replied, it wasn't on your side, but on the contractor side. And I was like, I'm sorry, how am I holding up the roof project? So I just want to state for the record, I'm not holding up any contractor roof project. It's not even in my purview, but I want to also state that it's taken significantly a long time and the community would like this project complete. I want to get to, as you know, this committee has the Office of Disability Rights under its cluster. And so we are going to be doubling down on making sure all of our agencies are in compliance with the ADA. I want to hear about, first and foremost, have you all submitted your plan to the Office of Disability Rights regarding your ways in which you all will improve accessibility at DPR sites? We had testimony from Tisha Cockrell about a door, particularly at Riggs LaSalle, that needed to be fixed. And so these are ADA issues. And so I know there's been issues in the past. I want to hear about what your plan is to ensure all of your facilities are in compliance with the ADA.
Sure. We actually do have, and we do work with ODR on all of our capital projects to, they actually review plans to help us make sure that the design team is planning a project that meets all the ADA requirements for a new facility or new park. They actually came out to visit with us, do site visits to check things.
Okay.
We have what's called an ADA transition plan. It's this sort of an in-house document that we use to track our progress in terms of ADA progress, in terms of making all the facilities in the district are completely and 100% ADA accessible, and things can go from accessible to not accessible just by a door breaking. So that's something that we're always tracking. We're always trying to improve. But we do have that document that we're working through at the time at the moment with all of our projects. I'm happy to.
Is that something that can be shared with the committee?
From DGS, my understanding is they're currently working through permitting. There's a vendor who's working through permitting through the Historic Review Board for that. For Twin Oaks.
For Twin Oaks.
For
Okay.
Twin Oaks.
Okay, great. We're ADA compliance.
Right. Yes, ma'am. I'm sure we can share that plan.
Okay, great.
Was part of our CAPA reaccreditation. It was a product of that. I'm sure we can share that.
Okay. Now, accessibilities of our DPR buildings and facilities is one thing. Accessibility of DPR programs is another. What we heard in feedback is there are very little programs that service those with disabilities. There was one mentioned for toddlers, but outside of that, there wasn't any for teenagers, adults. Can you talk to me about the accessibility of DPR programs?
So all of our programs are accessible for individuals with varying abilities. And as part of our application process, we ask specific questions. Do you need accommodations? And then we provide the accommodations. So oftentimes we don't necessarily work through or have because we don't want it to be an afterthought. So it's included in the application process at the time. Also through our therapeutic camps, those are the specialized camps where you have to have a intake process to get in, but that's a different set of that's a different set of abilities. But for the most part, every last one of our programs are designed for those with special needs. And
Okay.
it's the constituent has the opportunity to self-identify what the need, what the support is, and then we provide it.
Got you. So are you saying there's some specialized programs and then there's some ways you can make accommodations within programs?
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Because it's about inclusion, and that is what we call adaptive recreation. So
Right.
adaptive, we're not necessarily targeting a specific community, but we are making the necessary adaptations for those individuals who require supports.
Okay. We had several emails from people kids who couldn't attend camp, even though accommodations were requested. I think they registered their daughter for camp, requested accommodations, showed up, and there was no accommodations there. How are you all actively ensuring that when accommodations are requested for camps and programming, that you are actually meeting those requests?
So the way our system is designed, when a constituent signs up for a program and indicates that they need an accommodation, that triggers us to do something additional on our end. And so usually our program registration office is following up directly with that constituent to ascertain what the needs are to provide the additional supports.
Okay. I think one thing would be helpful is, I think, just pulling out sort of being able to pull out those requests and just to see in comparison to the requests as they came in, if and how the need would met would be a way to meet those goals. I want to get a chance to, and I'll come back to disability issues later on in another topic area. But I did want time to talk about out-of-time school programs and the data. What is DPR's current definition and assessment of high-quality out-of-time school programs? Do you all use the standards and requirements for high quality that adhere to the guidelines set out by the district's out-of-time school program?
So we work with various organizations through camps, whether it's our Boost. There are several, even through the National Recreation and Park Association. There are recreation standards for what out of school time is, and it's oftentimes learning through play. And so we are using various skills, drills, activities to increase literacy and numeracy. So whether it's coloring by number, whether it's doing an expose, so if you think about even Valentine's Day or something, there's learning in that, through art, through various modalities. So it doesn't necessarily align with what's in school, because many of our students live in the neighborhood, they come after school, and they may all attend different schools, but we are following the standard.
Okay, so you do, in short, you do adhere to OST's sort of definition of high quality programming.
Absolutely.
Okay. DPR has operated the Recreation for All grants
Mhm.
for the past 3 years, fiscal year 23, 24, 25. I want to discuss these grants. What is the process for selecting which organizations or agencies receive funding?
So we use a rubric. We have grant reviewers who review, and they score and rank the grants based on several factors, including the need, the area in which they say that they are served, what they're offering, and their capacity to offer.
Okay, so the grants are reviewed by
Independent reviewers.
independent reviewers. Are those hired independent reviewers or like
Yes.
internal?
Hired independent reviewers.
Independent reviewers review the grants. Okay. And if the organization does not receive a grant, do they receive information about why they didn't receive the grant so that they can better their application for the next year?
Yes, so we provide technical assistance through our Center for Nonprofit Advancement, who is our fiduciary agent for like the smaller travel grants. And so they provide technical assistance to any grantee who would like to know how to better. And so we do some before, we give them the opportunity to meet with them prior to submitting their grants. As you know, it's very competitive, and funding is limited. And so, but we do provide vendors with opportunities to enhance their package with no guarantee that they will be funded.
Okay. So they are given a reason as to why they weren't selected, or are they given that reason?
Yes.
And then they can go to who you hired to sort of try to improve that application. Okay. What is the relationship with you all, the Office of Out of Time School Time, and your DPR, as far as your steps you guys have taken to standardize grant applications and data collection and reporting requirements? Have you partnered with the Office of Out of Time School Programs, or what does that partnership look like?
No, because our funding model is different. Out of school time is directly for organizations that usually work with schools. Our programming is designed for recreation or community enhancements to partner. Many of our organizations work or provide service in the summertime.
Got it. Okay, so it's just you don't feel that I guess your aims are supposed to be the same. So the question is, why can't you all sort of get on the same page? I think with out of time school programs, I think the overall mission is to essentially, make sure that we are investing in organizations that are working with underserved populations for the benefit, I think, of all district youth and families. And so I think that you all should sort of come together and there should be a nexus there.
I see it differently. I see recreation as just that. I hear you and I hear the thought behind it. I think that we are unique. It is hard to, when you think about recreation and our after-school program, what does that look like? That is a model, yes, that I think fits with out of school time. But our Rec for All programming grants, I don't think that they align with out of school time. Our Rec for All grants could be an organization who wants to work with a group of youth who need some little redirection, a little grit, and a little more TLC. They may be your youth who's not necessarily coming into the building. And so how do we serve them in a non-traditional way? I think that's what that funding is for. That's what it has, we've been successful in using it that in that model. I think if we limit it to out of school time, I think we change the scope and the intent in which it was designed.
Understood. I'm out of time. I'm going to go. We've been joined by my colleague, Councilmember Charles Allen from Ward 6, and my colleague, Wendell Felder from Ward 7. I'm going to recognize both of them for a 12-minute round. Councilmember Allen, you are up first.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Director, great to see you
Good
and
to
your
see you.
team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna run through naturally a few Ward 6 projects, and a couple of them though touch on bigger issues, but I'm very excited. We've got a large number of Ward 6 projects that have been in the pipeline for a while that are all coming in now. I'm losing track a little bit of how many different community meetings we've got on different sites. And so it's an exciting time as we get a lot of these projects we've been working on starting to deliver or get under construction. But let me start walking my way through a few of them. I want to start with Randall, which is a huge facility, very important in Southwest, and has a lot of potential to deliver on a lot of core needs. One of the things that and this will be a theme I come to a couple of times, is the partnership between DPR and DGS on some of the maintenance. So, for example, at the Zimmerman Field area, for more than a year, the lights haven't shown on home plate, which makes it very difficult to hit the ball when someone's throwing it at you. And so we worked with DGS. My understanding is actually this week, they should be finishing up the project to shift the lights, get those light bulbs fixed. That's been more than a year that it's taken to do that. When I talk with the DGS director, he talks often about needing more support, like in small cap type of projects to do maintenance needs. But down the road at King Greenleaf, it took us a year to get a water fountain fixed. Somebody just reached out to me yesterday saying that they've got all the equipment in the fitness room at King Greenleaf is broken right now. We're going to get that fixed. We're going to work with DGS. We'll work with you to get it fixed. But what are some of the issues that you see with partnering with DGS, where we've got these kind of small cap projects that may not be huge dollar amounts, but they have a huge impact, of course, on all the people that we want using our facilities? How do we improve that? And maybe can you share some of the work you're doing with Director Hunter to speed some of that up?
So Director Hunter and I have a great working relationship. We meet, speak often about all of the projects that are near and dear to the district. We have a level 1 maintenance team that can support with some of the small projects so that they don't get necessarily lost in the pipeline of the bigger projects and have to go to a third-party vendor. And so that has proved to be successful. I think we can acknowledge that many of our buildings just have an aging infrastructure. DPR has become increasingly popular. And because of that, with more usage, there's sometimes more breakage. But as soon as we can, we are trying to fix and mitigate some of the issues. So,
And to be clear, certainly with high usage, we're going to see breakage.
Mhm.
So nobody should be under the assumption that we're not going to see that happen. But we had like the lights at Eastern that were out of commission for more than a year. I think it got struck by lightning. We're not sure, but it was more than a year to get a repair
yeah,
of the lights. And what that does is it impacts the people who get the permits, work through the system with you to get access to the fields, but then they can't play at night. We could spend our entire 12 minutes just on this alone. I'd like to continue working with you and with DGS,
so I will,
especially in the budget. Like, do we
yes.
need to think about ways that we create more capacity
Mhm.
through small capital lines or other things like that in the DGS budget so that we can respond faster to some of these or hire in the person that needs to come in?
I appreciate that.
Okay. I'm going to stick with Randall for a second.
Mhm.
All right. Can you give me your update? Where are we with a partnership agreement? My understanding is that we've had applications for a partnership agreement at Randall with Capitol Hill Little League and others to help put some money and invest in the space. High utilizers of the field. There's a lot of utilizers of all the fields there.
Yes.
But could you share an update on where we stand on the
Yeah, so
partnership?
we will not have a partnership agreement with Capitol Hill Little League. They have about maybe 6 to 8 locations where they currently serve, maybe within the DCPS inventory and DPR inventory. And so Randall Field is high utilization. And so we have some other things that we're working on. I don't think that it's feasible for us to partner with an organization at that site that's hugely popular, that will minimize or potentially create the singular use. And I know that that's not the design or the goal, but in our partnership agreements, that seems to take the precedence. I will say that Capitol Hill Little League, because of past use, they have the field, like they get the request, right? And so I think the way that it currently set up works well for all.
Okay. I'll be upfront. I'm disappointed that you're shutting the door on any partnership agreement there. I can't think of any other DPR site where I've got multiple baseball fields that could be used for that.
Understood.
So what else would we do? I mean, we have 2 baseball fields there. We have a patch of grass that we play some soccer on in the outfield.
Hmm. So
But
they
it's-
have
but it's a
usage of this.
baseball field.
Well, so I would encourage you to change your lens. I don't think that having a signed partnership agreement means that they're not utilizing the space, because they are.
I agree with you. They're utilizing it. I think that it's not, I mean, I'll be frank, having played on that side, it's not maintained very well. So
Understood.
I think what they've been wanting to do is enter into have a partnership where they will put more resources into it on the private side to help complement what we got, because we can't seem to be maintaining it very well to be able to
Yeah.
help. I think that's their vision. They're on the site. They use it. It's great.
Yeah.
That part has been successful.
Mhm.
I think what they're trying to look at is moving forward, a partnership agreement would let them go say, okay, we want to now bring some more money to the table to help improve it for us and for anybody else using the site.
Understood. I know that we've met with them. We also have some other avenues that we're looking at. And so I hear you. I hear you, and I appreciate that. And yeah, I look forward to partnering in additional ways.
Partnering, but not in a partnership.
Everything is a partnership. We're in this together.
We are. We're going to keep working together.
Yeah.
All right, let me move to a couple other items. Rosedale Pool.
Mm.
I'm very excited about this. Now, when we started this project, it was in Ward 6. Now it's my good friend, Councilor Felder's Ward 7. The pool didn't move though.
The beautiful.
But we did fight to get funding in the budget. It is going to be an expansion. It's hugely popular, fantastic pool. This is a good story, episode here. How confident are we that we can get all the work done, that it's basically offline only during the off season? Meaning that I think the plan is, but if you could confirm, the construction for the expansion of the pool site would happen when the pool season ends. Are we
Correct.
going to be able to get it all done before the next pool season begins, or should we help prepare our pool users that it would go into the next summer season?
Currently, it is slated to go offline at the end of pool season. And currently, it is slated to reopen And hopefully it will be the site of jump in for 2026. So
the cannonballs,
that is
all right.
the current projections.
Got it. Councilmember Felder's very excited about the cannonballs there. All right, let me stick with pools. One of my favorite ones, our Rumsey project. So excited about this one. This is going to be transformational. You're about to create the gem of the whole system. I'm excited about it. How do you feel about the timeline and are we maintaining on track?
So far, so good. We are on, we got our survey out.
Response is due this Friday. Everybody watch it.
Friday.
Yep.
We've met that timeline. And so far we are good to go. Of course, where we are, the design started. And so we currently are on timeline, to our knowledge, and we're excited to say that, so.
Excellent. I heard a little bit of a conversation about this earlier, so I'm going to try not to spend too much time on it. But regarding Jefferson, we've got a field renovation, which is going to be fantastic and is really going to open up options there. We are having the tennis court, pickleball courts, where we will end up with more pickleball courts. So I want to make sure that's clear. Absolutely. The issue that I have heard is related to the fencing and the gates and the egress. And bear with me just for a second. So my understanding is the additional pickleball courts are going to be put in, but that currently there's only a 6-foot distance from the back line of, if you think about your tennis and your pickleball, you got your back line of the court and where the fence is. And I guess regulations are that it's supposed to be 10 feet distance between that fence and that back line for safety purposes. I don't play pickleball. I used to play tennis, but as you remember, you drop back and you got to hit that ball. And if I got a fence too close, I'm crashing into it, right? And because the only gate is on the north side of this, it means that anybody playing on the southern pickleball courts would have to cross over the play of other people that are playing to even get to the gate to get out. So the ask that I think that people are asking for is, why are we not have a gate on the north side and also a gate entry on the south side so we can reduce those conflicts? And I think people would love to have, of course, the full 10 feet, but it feels like, especially with the shorter distance, we need to think about having a different egress point for folks on the south side of the overall section of courts. Otherwise, we're putting them into conflict with the other play going on. Does that make sense what I'm trying to describe?
It totally does, Councilmember. So we actually looked at this last week, and we are looking at adding another exit entrance point on the southern end. It's just a matter of finding the right spot.
That is great news. Thank you very much. It won't fix the 10 feet issue, but we'll keep working on that one. But I think that if we can keep knocking these off the list, that's great. Thank you very much for working on that. At Sherwood Rec, we've got a modernization and upgrade happening right now on the exterior facilities, which is great. Field's going to be improved. That should be coming online soon-ish. Playground repairs coming soon-ish. But the area of concern is that the basketball court and the tennis court, which is not a pickleball, it's going to remain a tennis court on this one, the surface is not going to be finished until the end of May. When this was put out to the community, it was told this is all going to wrap up by the end of January, weather dependent. So understandable, a slide of about a month because of just all the snow we got. But we're going to miss, if we can't get the surface poured until the end of May, we're going to miss the entire spring season for a lot of our basketball and tennis uses. Do we understand why it's been delayed when we were told previously it would be into January or rolling into February?
Sure. So my understanding, it's weather, since the pouring of the final surface from the courts is weather 50 degrees or higher. So I think May is probably being very conservative. I think we're doing everything we can, I think, to push that back into April or potentially March. I think as quickly as we can get that done.
50 degrees was the requirement back in December when we told everybody into January, wouldn't we? I mean, we don't have that many days that are above 50 degrees in January usually.
Yeah, I can't speak to what's been communicated like back before then. I do know that is the requirement for surfing. I'm not sure why we would say January, knowing that the surfacing requirements are 50 degrees or higher. But we are working to get that done as quickly as possible.
I know my time's up. Working with the community is so important, and I know you do it every day. Setting expectations and then not being able to meet them is one of the worst, right? So when we tell the community, hey, this is going to open back up into January, I think everyone can give some grace and understand whether we're going to slide a little bit, but into May all of a sudden has hit a lot of people as a big shock because they were expecting, probably by March, we'll be back on these courts. So I think we just got a lot of work to do to make sure we're helping set those expectations we can deliver on. And if we can speed that time up, I'd love it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Next, we will turn to Councilmember Wendell Felder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Freeman, so we meet again. Good morning to you, as well as members of your senior leadership team. I must say, and you know this better than I know this, you have some superstars on your team. So I'm definitely looking forward to working with you all in my new capacity as the Ward 7 council member. With that, I know that during your opening remarks, you mentioned DPR, y'all play too much. With that being said, absent of that theme, you've been in a role for 2 years or so. What would you say your long-term vision is for DPR?
To grow the capacity of staff, to increase their toolbox, and to ensure that no matter where they are able to maximize how residents in the district or any other facility or field that they choose are served. DPR, I think it's a missed opportunity when people just look at us as a rec center. We're more than buildings. And so that is why when you hear professionalizing play, because the average person, the rec. But these are humans who are impacting humans. So when you think about a very tragic situation like a 16-year-old who was walking down the street and got shot and ran into a rec center for cover, right? Those are real things that have happened in our spaces. And because our staff are trained with how to handle this, not only did the young person feel safe, but the staff knew everything to do for cover. Our seniors, when you think about the quality of life in the district and aging in place, you've retired from your role and now you can come to DPR to coalesce, to feel connected. Those are the things that add to the quality of life. And so when it's all said and done, my legacy will be improving, increasing, demanding, expecting, and serving at a maximum capacity.
Thank you. Are there any challenges that you anticipate over the next couple of years? And if so, what are you doing to tackle those challenges?
So I think staff training is one thing. I think building a surrogacy of people who are equipped to make decisions as necessary, who feel confident in the decision making, and who feel supported when making those decisions. So when I think of challenges, I think of good work. We have some good projects coming down the line. I'm so excited about the projects that we have in design, the projects that will come on board. And so I think the challenge is not being able to hire everyone who wants to work at DPR.
You mentioned training for your staff. We've noticed that DPR did not meet its target KPI goals as it relates to providing customer service training. What are you doing to rectify that?
I'm not sure we didn't meet our goal. If that is what is reported, I'll have an updated report sent to you. We have a training officer at the agency. All of our staff are encouraged to join Precipio. In addition, we have weekly in-service trainings for our lifeguards. Our managers meet and train monthly. Staff are reminded to review the DPR policy handbook in their downtime. We send out constant reminders. As you know, February is Youth Development Professional Training Month. And so we've hosted trainings not only for our staff, but also for the community. And so I will like to take an opportunity to relook at that and resubmit that because we are consistently offering training. We'll host a women's leadership training for the women in the agency. It may not seem that way in DPR, but nationally, This is, there are not a lot of women in the world of recreation. When you look at national, I am one of 19 African-American leaders of a 9,000 member organization for the National Recreation and Parks Association. So we're increasing capacity in those ways as well.
Talking about strategic plans, I know you guys have a strategic plan. Does your strategic plan include ward-specific plans? For example, do you have a recreation plan for Ward 7?
We have a ready-to-play master plan. I will make sure that you have a copy of the Ready to Play Master Plan, which is a 20-year master plan that talks about ward by ward specific. You can also find it, this is it, you can also find it at readytoplay.com, but I'll make sure that you have your own personalized copy so that you're able to read through it and see the plans for the district and specifically the beautiful Ward 7.
I've gotten a lot of questions from neighbors in terms of, hey, council member, I may live in Cayman Park. There's no recreation center, even though I'm close to Rosedale Park. I'm sorry, Rosedale Recreation Center. Can you walk me through DPR's process for selecting a new recreation center or recreation space? Do you guys do it by request, like the desire, or do you do it by proximity to neighborhood? And that goes back into like the strategic planning.
So, you know, so DPR is ranked #1 by the Trust for Public Land score
I saw that. Good
as
job.
4 years in a row. And our walkability score, it
Right.
means that most of our residents live in a 1-mile radius of a recreation center. And many of them live in a mile radius of maybe 3 recreation centers with the way that they are positioned. And so I would encourage Kingman Park, if they do not want to use Rosedale to come across the bridge, but I know River Terrace is getting a new recreation center. And so that will solve for that for Kingman Park. And that is slated to come go ahead.
Right, we do have $20 million for this new River Terrace Community Center. We actually have the funding now, so we're working to hire an architecture firm to come with us to connect the community, to start that series of community meetings.
And not only, I'm sorry, really quickly, Councilmember, not only is there River Terrace, but there's also some money that was put in the budget for the RFK site for a sportsplex. So between Rosedale, River Terrace, and RFK, it's a lot of Rs. And so they can, have access.
Throughout my list of questions, I was going to get asked for updates on projects, but you beat me to it. That $20 million is a two-part question. The $20 million that is projected to build a recreation center at River Terrace, is that in this upcoming budget? And Director Freeman, you mentioned the $60 million that was put in the budget last year. But that was later removed, which was very disappointing by my council colleagues. The $60 million that was removed, do you plan to put that $60 million back in the budget for the sports and learning complex with my help?
As far as River Terrace goes, that money became available to us this past October, FY '25.
Okay.
So that's when the money became available. So we're working now to get that project started.
Okay. And the 60 million for the learning complex at?
Yeah, we would love, we would absolutely love to have an indoor sports complex at RFK. I think, if the funding was there, that's something that DPR would be a huge advocate for. I think we can see so many needs that would serve both the public and DPR's mission.
Let's work to get it back. Okay. Speaking of projects, my Ward 6 colleague asked about or mentioned Rosedale Pool. Rosedale Library came up a lot with my conversations with neighbors. There's a desire to merge the projects. The pool making the library more expansive and the pool at the same time. My question is, when you look at Rosedale, when you look at Hillcrest Recreation Center, are those projects on time?
Sure. Yes, Rosedale, the outdoor pool expansion is on time.
Okay.
We expect to, after this upcoming summer swim season, to close the pool, and it would be offline, just like normal. And we would hope to complete all the work in time for the next spring or next summer when the pool would reopen. So that is, when we have a contractor, and that's what their schedule actually says, we're going to hold them to that, for sure. Hillcrest has funding for the indoor aquatic center.
Yes.
I think we've had a couple, maybe 3 design meetings with the community. We are currently at the part of the process where we go to what's called the GBAC, the folks that tell us these are the energy requirements you must follow. And this is where we are right now. We're having discussions with them about what are the energy requirements for this new facility. And it's really tough for indoor aquatic facilities because they are just energy hogs.
Right.
So we're sort of having a negotiation with those folks on what that means and what that means for our budget too, because we didn't account for having a completely net zero facility at that location. So much more to come, and we'll keep folks updated.
Bobby, being a Ward 7 resident, Director Freeman, you can attest to this. Entering and exiting out of Ben and Stoddard can be a challenge. A number of residents have requested looking to expand that site. For residents who may be tuning in, if they wanted to start that process, how would you instruct them to go about with starting that process or inquiring what next steps would be if I wanted to modernize that current facility?
So, advocacy, I'll use the pickleball community as an example, who advocate for what their needs are. I think these hearings that Councilmember Lewis George holds, the mayor's budget forums are currently happening. I know that there's one that will be at Rosedale and on Thursday,
I'll be
the
there.
27th. So those are times to go and kind of voice their also Kennedy on March 1st, Kennedy Recreation Center for the mayor's budget forums, as well as advocacy.
In the interest of time, I'll save my questions for the next round.
All right. Thank you. Director, I want to finish up in my out-of-time school programs section for, if I could. Where can I find the list of 2024 Recreation for All grantees and sort of their funding award levels and youth served levels? There's no listing of the grantees currently posted on the DPR website.
It's on our website, but we'll make sure it is, but it's okay. We'll make sure you get
Okay.
a copy. The team will forward you a copy.
Okay. And I know you've been doing it from 23 to 24, 25. So if I could get 23 as well, that would be
Okay.
helpful. One thing that has come up is that grants tend to work best for nonprofit organization when there is reoccurring funding, so that there's some level of stability and continuity for an organization's finances and staffing. How does DPR see its role in strengthening the ecosystem of organizations committed to youth development, whether that's OST programming or just recreational programming, as you framed it?
So that's a great question. As you know, our initial funding came from the ARPA funding to support. So it was initially an ARPA funded initiative.
Okay.
And it was immensely successful. We were able to expand the footprint and just how community organizations who support young people, whether it's travel, whether it's through organizations that have a long-standing footprint in the community, how they serve. And so Mayor Bowser we were able to keep some funding in the budget. The initial funding structure was 3.4 million and the first 2 years. And I think this year with the budget, we're at 1.9. So it's a little much less that we have to serve. So again, DPR is new in the grant making authority. And so this is year 3 of that. We think that it's highly successful. And when I mean it increases the the footprint, it really increases the footprint of how we serve. But of course, that is something that is contingent upon if funding is available.
Great. I agree. I think as the district is looking to serve more and more youth, that requires organizations to sort of have more, more stability, and grant processes from the government should sort of reflect, I think, pro-stability. And so if we can figure out a way to have a youth development ecosystem growth model that aligns with that, that would be good.
Really quickly, I just like to really kudos to Mayor Bowser and my predecessor, Director Hunter, for establishing the Rec for All grants. It is just the work, the reports, the work that has been done. We've seen a new side of organizations, and to your point, it gave them hope.
Mhm.
Right, where they could actually utilize, and I know you hear it and you get the calls,
Yeah.
but it was brilliant.
Yeah. I agree. How do you all, I think this has come up before. I think last year's oversight answers, there was some, I guess, duplications, meaning that we heard testimony that if you ran 4 1-week sessions of 100 camper camp, that you counted it as providing seats for 400 district youth instead of 100 seats. So I think, I guess that's been a reoccurring challenge for understanding in real time how many sort of seats DPR is operating. And I just wanted to understand sort of how do you count the number of youth being served and making sure we're not data duplicating in that regard.
So every youth participant is a unique participant. Every session is a unique session. In layman's terms, if you are a Beyonce fan and if you go to see Beyonce in every city, you still bought a ticket in every city. That doesn't mean that only this number of fans were served. So when you think about it from the camp lens, every seat is one single serving. So it's one seat available. And so in week 2, if you have 2,500, although a participant may have participated in week 1, that is still one seat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that makes sense to me. So I'm just asking from a data perspective, data isn't being duplicated in that respect.
No.
Okay.
There are unique participants. It is, yes, you have participants who come back, but there are also participants who only do one session.
Got it. And speaking of programs, you all just successfully rolled out this partnership with George Washington University. I really want to know about sort of the Youth Development Professional Certification Program and GW partnership. What are the KPIs for that partnership? What's the recruitment process, and how many people are enrolled? And what are the courses they're going to take?
So currently we received about 300 applications. So what it is, the brainchild of yours truly, wanting to ensure that people who touch young people have an opportunity to capture, understand what the work means, understand what their role is, and to provide them with a toolbox full of resources to support. So you are supporting young people through all of their trauma, through all of their literal growing pains, because again, at the recreation center, we are more than a building. And so because we are teachers, we are caregivers, we are mentors, we are advocates, and all of those things, we want to make sure that anyone who touch young people have a certification that says, I've gone through a training. Now you asked what kind of courses. So you have problem solving, critical thinking, listening. You have understanding adolescence, understanding the brain of a child, understanding age-appropriate communications, understanding age-appropriate various strategies, in addition to being in a community of others who do the same work. And then you have a community of practice. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, we're excited for this program. I mean, congratulations on rolling it out. I'm looking forward to hearing next year's sort of numbers, impact, and what that's gonna look like.
Absolutely.
And seeing how then we can duplicate that in other ways.
Absolutely.
I wanted to also ask about the online enrollment system. That are you all working with agencies to sort of, I guess, create with out-of-time school programs, a unified enrollment database, but probably not because you see them as two separate.
No,
Thanks.
we do work with the Deputy Mayor for Education for the portal that's coming, the
Yes.
Learn 24. We do for our after-school access program.
Okay,
I see our funding as separate, but
gotcha.
not the after-school, because we truly have after-school program. We have funding from OSSI to support with meals for our after-school access programs.
Got it. I wanted to ask, as it relates to people getting camp slots, I know it's controversial because you got to be the first person online.
No, no.
People are waiting.
No,
So
no.
I want to ask, how are we improving the process in which people are getting camp slots? And how do we consider equity, geography in that
So
compilation?
with the rollout of our lottery, no more are there the Hunger Games where you had to be online at 12 noon. And we agree. We recognized that that model did not work for working families.
Right.
If you're working during the day, there's no way that you can log on at noon
Mhm.
to register your child, right? Or you had to do it on your lunch break, right?
That's right.
And so what the lottery solved for, and it's currently open, you have 2 weeks to enter your child into the slot. It's like the schools. This is the slots where I would like to have my child. So we're on year 3 of this. And so we've been able to so year 1, everyone who wanted a slot was offered a slot. How does that work? So we open it up to the lottery spins, people have, 2 weeks to pay. We also allow families, this is the equity piece. We allow families to have a reduced rate, and then we allow families to have a payment plan. So we don't cancel the slot if a family indicates that they can't pay at the time. Also, when a family declines a spot, we went to the waiting list.
Okay. That's what-
After we cleared the waiting list, then we opened it back up to all district residents. Then after all district residents were open, we opened it up to Maryland and Virginia or any other residents. So that is why we can say that everyone who wanted a slot got a slot. Now, did they get the slot they necessarily wanted? No. Everyone could not be at Turkey Thicket, but a slot may have opened up at Bald Eagle or Fairby Hope or Brentwood if you were interested and needed to, have your child participate in a camp.
Understood. How many out-of-state people did we have accessing our camps?
I will check. I'm not sure, but that is the last group and we publicize it.
Okay.
It is not, something that's done in a bubble. It's public on all of our socials, that it's open to everyone.
Mhm.
It's open. We remind our district residents. And then I will tell you, the most times that the out of town residents or Maryland, Virginia residents, it's usually through attrition. So usually like week 2, when maybe families are going out of town and they decide, I'm not going to take this camp slot.
Understood. Okay. Out-of-time school programs is sort of one of my things I want to focus on in this new council period with DPR. So I look forward to just discussing pulling data to be able to make better informed decisions as we move forward and finding that nexus with the OST office. I got 53 seconds. I'm going to move next to cleanliness of parks and recreation after I give my colleague, Councilmember Felder, another round of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back for round two. Director Freeman, how does DPR work with MPD to improve our overall public safety ecosystem?
Great question. We have an excellent partnership with MPD. Last year, we rolled out late night hype times beat the street. And so we hosted 10 activations in partnership with MPD. We work very well with Chief Smith and her team. We have a open dialogue and an open thread that we're in constant communication with the chief of youth services. We are tracking youth who may need additional supports through our Roving Leaders program. We're in the schools, and so we're partnering with MPD on where we see youth who may be hanging out and not necessarily in a rec center, but trying to get them associated with our recreation programs.
You mentioned late night hype.
Mhm.
Absent of reducing crime initiative, do you guys offer late night hype like outside of trying to tackle crime? Is it only geared towards reducing crime? Like what will make DPR say we want to offer service beyond extended hours?
So we don't publicize it as a crime reduction
Gotcha.
event. We know that when you provide safe spaces for young people to go and have things, positive things for them to do, a byproduct, a direct impact is a reduction in crime. So while we don't promote it as we're reducing crime by doing this, we've looked at the data and we've shown we can have 1,500 youth in this one area and there's no criminal activity in that area.
I love it. Segue to my next question. So you mentioned earlier that DPR now has grant making authority.
Mhm.
If you look at communities like Benton Park, Rosedale, that have like historically had its public safety challenges, have you thought about providing a grant with that specific recreation center? For example, say if we know that Benton Park and Rosedale, they have coaches there, and oftentimes our young folks, they make it to the playoffs, but they don't have the money to fly to Florida, so they have to raise those funds. Have you thought about if I'm a coach and or a community leader and I do work in that community to help make it safe for our young folks, let me put money aside in which they can apply for, but it's associated with the rec.
Absolutely. So we have in our C grants, so it's our programming, engagement, event, and our travel grants. And so we were happy in 23 and 24 to fund Beacon House, Watkins, Rosedale, Marshall Heights. I feel like I'm missing some. We funded several teams who traveled to Florida for the football championship. We've sponsored several teams, the boxing program. So we've, through our travel grant, the baseball, Mamie Johnson, Little League, we provided funding for that as well. So we do, those grants are designed for that population. Through Councilmember McDuffie's office, we've been able to work directly with many organizations who did not have the funding, even for Johnson Middle School, who the football team. So those are exactly what those funds are designed to do.
Got you. And would you say that those events were successful? And if so, what metrics are being used to determine the success for that?
They went, they traveled, they played, they came back home safely, successful, good time.
Circling back with the theme, you play too much. When we talk about activation space, has DPR considered providing programming at non-traditional recreation facilities, for example, like a church, a public housing meeting center, a senior building that wouldn't naturally have access to some of the DPR's recreation spaces if they choose not to leave their neighborhood?
You must be talking about our roving leaders. So that's exactly what we do. We do pop-up mobile activations. So we increased from 300 to 700 last year. And so they're in the community. We've been in Potomac Gardens. We do our little popcorn pop-ups after school as a safe passage thing where we are. We've popped up at the churches. We've in the middle of the street. We work directly. I heard you say housing complexes. We work directly with DC Housing Authority. We've had activations at King Greenleaf, at Brentwood, Ward 1. There's several housing authority properties that we partner with to host activations. And we're immensely popular. Not only do our team show up as a resource, but we also allow through our permitting process where individuals can ask for equipment. So you can permit a moon bounce, you can permit some of our games and activations to support your events where DPR staff may not be there, but the church can pick the stuff up or we'll drop it off and use it. So we do have our equipment and our resources available to some community members.
I love it. In Ward 7, we have the Marvin Gaye Park Trail, and we often get complaints about the lack of maintenance. How well would you say the agency is maintaining its green space across the city?
So with the Marvin Gaye Trail, last year, building, DC building, Liz DeBarros partnered, and they donated $250,000 of in-kind services to restore the stage, the trail. There's a strong community support group at that Marvin Gaye Park and Trail who help us support. Also, our park rangers, in addition to our community and our environmental team, are working to keep the park clean. We're also charging the residents, and I'm not talking about charging as in fiscally charging. I'm talking about charging the residents with holding, being more proactive in how they keep the spaces clean. We're running campaigns to not throw your trash on the ground. There are trash receptacles there, and it's working.
There appears to be a lot of outstanding work order tickets for DPR facilities, particularly in Ward 7. How does DPR work with DGS to manage work orders? Some of these are the same tickets, so I'm wondering what is being done to tackle these work orders and provide more preventative measures. Preventative maintenance.
Thank you for that. So preventative maintenance we do, especially like with our pools, we take them offline for 2 weeks and do our preventative maintenance schedule to ensure that we're able to work on the little minor issues that could potentially grow. Also in our work order system, we work closely with DGS. I think an opportunity for us is working on closing them out because the work may have been done, but we may just need to recircle back and close it out so that it just doesn't appear that there's a work order. Also, one thing that I found is, which I appreciate about DPR staff, being vigilant. They may walk past a water fountain and you may put the work order request in, and then someone else walks behind you and put the work order request in, and then the manager shows up. So you may have 3 work order requests in for the same thing. The issue could have been fixed. So on your side, when you see the work orders, it looks like there's 5 for the water fountain. And this is an opportunity for us to just kind of streamline how we enter work orders. And we're working with DGS. They've done a great job on closing them out. And so, yeah, that's how we work with DGS.
Sir, following back from my initial question, I was thinking about Marvin Gaye Park and the trail. Would you say that does DPR have enough park rangers to monitor parks? I know you mentioned like you trying to expand FTEs, and that's one of the things you're thinking about.
So we work with our park rangers. The one thing our park rangers does not have is enforcement.
Wow.
And so our park rangers do an excellent job in de-escalating and mitigating where they can. our thing with our park rangers is always maintaining safety.
Circling back to preventative maintenance as a follow-up question, do you have a list of recurring issues and what does preventative maintenance look like? Does the team have a maintenance schedule?
We do. So our preventative maintenance schedule for our pools is currently happening and is ongoing. So Tacoma Aquatic Center was offline from February 3rd through February 14th. Our Turkey Thicket, February 15th through March 3rd. Rumsey will be closed from March 9th through March 15th, and Berry Farms, March 16th through March 22nd. And we will make sure that you have this in your office, but we do this annually. It's a 2-week period where we kind of go in and make adjustments, look at all of the outstanding work orders. Also, treat, that is what we call preventive maintenance.
Copy. Pickleball. Uh, would you say once we get through this performance oversight hearing and the budget hearing, I would love to play you on the game of pickleball.
Oh, get ready. I have my own paddle. So have you ever
Okay.
played before?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'll wrap my questions up with this non-DPR related. Are you familiar with making the band? It's the point.
Oh, I know it is. I
Okay.
know it is. I
Uh,
am absolutely, yes.
Director Freeman, people have asked me, Wendell, who in your new role as the council member, who are your 5 favorite directors that work for the mayor? And I want to let you know that my answer is Director Freeman, Director Freeman, Director Freeman, Director Freeman, and Director Freeman. That has not changed. So I just want to thank you and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Councilmember Felder. I was totally caught off guard, and I appreciate your sense of humor, and I appreciate working with you on how we continue to make the beautiful Ward 7 the beautiful Ward 7.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you for budget. Uh, on some of the Ward 7 things, outstanding issues. Okay, Director, I want to talk about cleanliness in parks, and the lovely trifecta that is DGS, DPW, and DPR all having to deal with litter in parks. What does DPR sees as its role? I'm going to ask DPW this and DGS this, because this will be fascinating to get the answer of what you all believe your role is versus what you all do. What do you believe? What is your understanding of DPR's role regarding trash in our parks?
I think we all have an obligation to take.
I meant like outline obligation. Like my understanding, and let me do it from here. My understanding is that DGS provides custodial services for loose litter in DPR facilities and manages the contracts for recycling bins and trash dumpster collections. Then DPW collects the waste from park trash bins. DPR deals with trash on the grounds of DPW. And also contracting, contracting services for the cleanliness of land. So help me understand, what is your understanding of what DPR is doing, what DGS is doing, and what DPW is doing as far as responsibilities to clean our parks?
I think you summed it up perfectly. And we are working with our partners to do just that. We recognize our parks. So even our level 1 team, our level one maintenance team.
Mhm.
For trash cans that may be excessive, will, or, you know, unfortunately, constituents dump sometimes sofas and mattresses on DPR property. And so we're working internally to clean and mitigate those things. We have our park ambassadors that are internal to support with cleanup of loose litter. And when our trash cans are overrun, we're immediately putting in or notifying our partner agencies.
Okay. Here's what I want to do and see if you will agree to it. I would like us to get on this same page. So I think maybe I would like to have a meeting across the agencies with DPR, DGS, and DPW, so we can outline everybody's roles and responsibilities as it relates to trash. Can you imagine, as community members ask me, like, well, council member, who's responsible for this, for the overflowing trash cans, or who's responsible for the trash on the grounds, et cetera? And I'm giving them every single agency, well, you got to reach out to DPW for this, DGS for this, DPR. There is a better way. So I would like us to get to that. So my question is, if we could agree to a cross-agency meeting to come with the agreed roles and responsibilities as it relates to trash.
Absolutely. I think we
Okay.
all want, you know, the same thing, a beautiful city.
Right.
And just working and even getting our constituents on board to support that.
Great. And are you all still doing I remember last year we had gone to Marvin Gaye Park, and at that point, that morning I was so upset because it was like so much trash on the ground. We did some follow-up. Your team did the follow-up. It was, I guess, the contractor that you all had selected at that time had not come out and done the trash pickup it was supposed to do. That was corrected. Are we still doing, do you all still do contractors? Is it still, what's the process as far as contractors for each different DPR center? Who's responsible for sort of trash pickup, et cetera? Are you the contracting agency for that piece?
So our contracting agency is DGS.
And so DGS is still doing that?
And so we work closely with them, though. I will tell you, at Marvin Gaye Park, we did do a huge cleanup last year. That is when we found the ATM machines in the river and the other large debris that had been tossed out over the bridge. And so we are working to identify. And again, our park ambassadors, that's internal, are monitoring our parks and doing reports so that we can see in some of the parklands spaces that may not be visible from the street where people are using as trash repositories.
Got it. I wanted to ask about DPR's fiscal year 24 KPIs noted DPR completed 401 level 1 maintenance requests. What is included in DPR level 1 maintenance?
So they can, the team corrects anything that we don't necessarily have to put out for bid. So the door handles, the shower curtains, the park benches, it runs the gamut, but it's small projects, like little, I guess if you could think about something that you could fix around the house that you don't need a contractor to do. So that is what our level one maintenance team is responsible for.
Got it. So when the lady who, and I can't pronounce her name, and so don't,
Crocker?
Turkey Thicket,
Mhm.
noted that the shower curtains weren't replaced, that is a level 1 maintenance request.
Absolutely.
So that would be on you all to get done as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And we've replaced those shower curtains frequently.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you consider, I guess, other level 1 maintenance requests? We get a number of questions about people regarding, what do you call those things? Treadmills, sorry. Treadmills at different, DPR centers going out. People are saying the treadmill's still broken or this is still broken. Are those level 1 maintenance requests?
No. Equipment is something different. Our fitness equipment is something different because we do, especially if the equipment is under warranty. So those are things that we put out calls for.
So those are considered small. They're not small guys. I don't think it's enough money.
No,
for small
because we
Cavaliers.
have a vendor who's responsible for our equipment maintenance.
Okay. So it's an equipment request, not a maintenance one level request.
Correct.
So I just want to confirm, so DPR, not DGS, should be doing and paying for the work of level one maintenance requests. Right? DPR, not DGS, should be doing and paying for the work of level one maintenance request.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And it looks like we had 401 level maintenance requests, which is 62% higher than those completed in fiscal year 23. What does DPR believe is the cause of that increase?
Aging infrastructure. If you're talking about maintenance requests, I'd have to actually look at
It's just
some.
gone up 62% from fiscal year 23 to 24.
Yeah, I would assume some of our aging infrastructure. Also, vigilance. We're being more vigilant and being more proactive. So, you know, you've walked the centers with me.
Mhm.
And so I think now we're having staff as part of their opening and closing routines to put in requests for anything that they may see.
Yeah. Okay. If you could just like do a download and figure out like, what that is, why that was such an increase, that would be helpful. Since 2023, DPR has used Novo Solutions
Mhm.
to assign work orders to its internal park and field care team. Why didn't DPR just choose Salesforce for its internal consolidated maintenance management system? Like, I guess, how does this system work, and who can enter work orders and who can see work orders and who can close out work orders within the Novo Solutions versus why you all didn't just consolidate with Salesforce?
I think if I'm not mistaken, Novos is designed for our level one. And that is why so that we don't put because the Salesforce is the DGS system, and we wanted to streamline that so that the work is not duplicated or DGS assigns a person to that ticket. So we wanted to have something completely, totally separate. So that is why we did it that way.
Okay, so does it operate similar to the Salesforce system where you put in work orders, et cetera,
Correct.
close them out, et cetera?
Correct.
Okay, I just thought it would be easier for y'all to just use Salesforce versus Nova Solutions, because when we have, which I'm about to go to next, issues that are ambiguous, which we have a number of ambiguous issues, as I like to call them, it would be easier for us to address those work orders that way. So speaking of ambiguous issues, this has come up. It's been in the news. Everybody's talking about it. I already talked about it. I talked about it a year ago before everybody started talking about it. The nets around DPR centers that always go down, the baseball nets, soccer nets, etc. The nets that actually protect the community from outside, I don't know a better way to say this, outside balls, baseball, soccer balls, whatever kind of balls you want to call them. Those nets stay in the system for a extremely long time. Now, I guess it's in the Novo system and the Salesforce system because no one seems to know who's responsible for it. In your mind, who is responsible for these nets, the nets that take years? We've heard up to 6 years from some people, 10 years in other groups, about why these nets take so long to repair.
That's a large, the nets, the large scale items is something that is DGS, because that requires a contractor to do.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let DGS. So according to DPR, the nets, soccer, the nets that protect the community from outgoing balls is DGS's.
So we work with DGS, because of course the constituents notify us. And we're working with them. I know that there's some request, some major request about it, because it is a safety issue. So it is a high priority issue, but our level one maintenance team does not necessarily have the equipment to go high in the sky, you know, because those nets go really, really high. So that is something that we are working with DGS on getting done.
Okay. So if I were to say, so the baseball, soccer field nets, et cetera, those are, because they're more complex and lengthy jobs, it tends to take a long time, but we have so many that it's no longer complex. Like it can't be a complex issue because of the number we have in the district.
We can temporarily fix the nets, like if it
No, I
requires.
know you can put like the little things and stuff on it,
Yes.
but it sounds like most of them need like long-term fixes. So I'm eh, in me doing my oversight work, my understanding is going to be that if a community needs a net fix and it's taken 6 years to get done, that I need to go to DGS because that is not a level 1 maintenance for DPR. Would that be fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay. I want to ask about unique playground fixtures.
Mhm.
DPR does a great job, has amazing playgrounds. Everyone loves them across the district. We do these things where we contract with somebody for unique type playgrounds. Like you got maybe got a pirate theme in Ward 7, if I remember. Then you might got a bug theme over in Petworth. And the reality is those playgrounds, the life usage is going to go. People play on them all the time. It's it's taking a long time for replacement parts for our very unique playgrounds. What are we doing sort of to prevent sort of the ongoing sort of long time it's taking to fix those? Like, are we doing initial contracts now where we have replacement parts already a part of the a contract so that we aren't trying to find parts? Because oftentimes what happens is they maybe stop making that or the same people aren't a part of it. And now we just got seesaws with missing seats because they don't match the theme that it was 5 years ago when we put it in.
I'm happy to speak to this.
Yeah.
We do. So this is something we work really closely with communities on, because a community will have, for instance, the Harry Thomas folks, when we were working with them, they were really interested in STEM and science. So we made that a Fibonacci sequence playground, which was amazing. But you're right, it's custom equipment that really can't be reproduced quickly.
Yeah.
So what we found though is that the pieces that wear and tear the most are the things that move, like playground seats, seesaws, things like that, which are
Yeah.
typically not custom. So we're actually having this conversation now. And when we build a playground, we're actually trying to order additional swing sets, things that move, chains, so that we don't have a huge back order of issues like that come up. So that's something we're thinking through. Actually, this is something I had a conversation with about last week. Sort of to increase our in-house capacity to fix those things.
Correct.
Right.
We have two options. We can increase capacity to fix those things, or we can not make sort of the moving parts of playgrounds no longer these sort of customizable, unique things if we're not going to have those backup parts to them.
Correct.
So that's another one that goes on. There was a few years ago, DPR had sort of their maintenance, their level 1 maintenance team was there, but there was another group that was created. Now I'm blanking on where it was. That was helping resolve issues. I'll find it. I'll find it later. In DPR. It was under Director Hunter, but I can't remember. Okay, I don't see it, but I'll come back to it. What are you all doing to increase your maintenance capacity on the DPR level 1 maintenance side? How many people do you have working on the DPR maintenance level 1 maintenance team?
We currently have 3 staff members on our level 1 maintenance team.
Okay, and that's to service the entire portfolio?
Correct.
Okay.
Aquatics has its own maintenance team that does kind of level 1. So
It's separate. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Do you, is that, I'm going to say, do you feel that that's enough? My answer is going to be, I don't think it's enough. Your response to that would be?
We have an aging infrastructure and we do the best that we can to respond to the needs of the community.
Got it. Okay. with the increase in the 62% in level one maintenance requests, I think if we see that trend as a trend that's going to continue to go up, then we would need to, we adding capacity to maintenance at DPR's level one maintenance team should be something that is considered. So as you look to that, as we go to budget, I would like to, know if that's something we need to, it's a trend you expect to continue to rise so that we can ensure that the number of people that needs to be on that team is there. I wanted to ask about maintaining. I think Councilmember Felder was working on getting there or trying to get there, which was forested lands as well. As you know, I did legislation around trying to sort of bring that together and creating its own office within DOEE, but right now that's not the case. In terms of forested areas, like at Marvin Gaye Recreation Center, where maybe 2 years ago in that forested area, a weapon was recovered. And there was some DDOT disagreed to a 311 request that they do not cut vines or shrubs. It is your opinion, if DDOT is not the one cutting vines and shrubs within DPR spaces, is that something that your DPR level one maintenance team is doing, or who is responsible then? This is another ambiguity for ensuring that the forested lands are maintained.
So we are working with DDOT, Urban's Forestry, and DGS to identify, this is an area of concern. We've
Mhm.
heard it, including the bees,
Yes.
the different things, on our, National Park Service spaces. We recognize that, the constituents don't necessarily want to hear that's DDOT, that's DGS, that's
Right.
DPR, that's NPS. And so
Correct.
we're working to try to figure out a strategy and a solution for some of the smaller
Mhm.
overgrowth.
Okay. This is another area like trash where I would like to get the agencies to the table and we come up with a solution of roles and responsibilities. Because to the community, it's just a 311 request that gets outed in the system because no one is doing that work. And I want to come back a year from now and say all these tasks have been delineated across the agencies and everyone's sure of their responsibility there. And I think we also there was someone who testified, one of our ANC commissioners, just about they had been waiting for their park particularly to just get what I thought was basic things like it was what do you call a swing, Lord. He'd been asking about a swing, New York Avenue playground and its high use. And he was saying that it takes forever to get those maintenance things done. My understanding was we did have swings and those type of things within our warehouse to be able to repair quickly.
I'm trying to remember. I know there was one person that spoke about a fence issue at New York Avenue. Is that what you're referring to, Councilmember?
Yeah, New York Avenue playground. There was a broken
Oh,
playground equipment. But the equipment that it seemed that he identified wasn't sort of the high level sticky issue equipment. It seemed to be some things basic like a swing. Now I thought those were things, am I wrong, that we have like in warehouse that we are able to fix on a level one maintenance level, or is that incorrect?
there are certain things. It would be specific. Each playground is a bit different, so it would depend on the vendor and the issue. So I'm happy to follow up on that. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can check on that.
Okay. And then as it relates to that, right now, what are the dashboard that we do have, how transparent are we on the dashboard regarding sort of making sure that like broken playground equipment is sort of on there and there's an actual status update of when those things will be complete?
That's a good question. I'd have to get back to you on that one as well.
Okay.
I'm not that familiar with you're talking about the 311 system,
Mhm.
the dashboard. Happy to
Yeah.
follow up on that one too.
Okay. I want to go to Director asking about splash pads. Wonderful. The opening of splash pads for the past year was not as smooth as previous years. For weeks, I think my and other officers were regularly contacted about why splash pads did not open as early as previous years. And then after they finally opened, there was the day where I was running around. I know, because I was hot. I was pregnant, hot. And and we were waiting for Tacoma to get turned on and then Fort Stevens to get turned on. And like, it was like a ripple effect because everybody was waiting and then people were waiting at the splash pads for the splash pads to turn on. I guess I want to understand sort of uh, why was the original plan not to open splash pads, I guess, daily starting May 24th when pools were open, or how that decision was made, and what are we doing to fix because it sounded like when I spoke to DPR, it was one person going around opening all the splash pads, and he had to make his way across the city, which was crazy for somebody to have to go to all 8 wards to do splash pads. So walk me through what was different this past year that made the splash pad crisis a crisis.
Yeah, so our splash pads usually open up there on a timer. So I think what happened the year prior, the district experienced extreme heat, and so we turned them on earlier. Last year, we did not have the heat during the May and June. And so because a lot of our splash pads are on school properties as well. And so we thought it would be in coordination with DGS. We thought it would be optimal to reserve them for the latter part of the summer when it gets extremely hot, and just to keep them. I think we opened, I can't remember the date, maybe in June. But when we opened them officially.
And that, June 15th.
And that is what we did prior to, I think, the year before, when we just opened early because of the extreme heat.
Okay. I know DPR operates a dashboard that I think is intended to show when splash pads are open in real time.
Mhm.
I think the problem is residents show up to splash pads when they are offline, even though they are showing up open on the dashboard, because the dashboard is not updated for splash pads maintenance, which I guess is scheduled for.
No,
at
it
least-
is. It is.
Is-
It absolutely is. And I will tell you, now I will say that last year, the splash pad and the pool status was in the reaction to us hearing from constituents. So once we got it up and once we were able to socialize that constituents had a place to go for real-time information, it worked. But I do understand the frustrations of families. And so now our communication has been check before you go, know before you go. And here's the real-time information.
Okay, so then I have it wrong then, because I thought as a result, I thought splash pads that are offline for maintenance did not show on the real time what's offline. But you're saying that it does do that.
Everything shows,
Okay.
everything in our inventory shows up.
Okay. Okay, because that's the feedback I got for families that were checking the dashboard, that they were confused as to why something was closed, but it was a maintenance issue. So my question is, I guess this year, if you decide, I mean, I'm sure it'll be hot early, if you decide to open splash pads early, can we just have a commitment that there will be equity in splash pads being opened early, sort of one in each ward if you're going to do wards? And can we ensure that if the timer is going to work, that like we can't rely on the timer alone. Like, so somebody needs to come out the day before, a couple days before, and test the splash pads to make sure that the pumps are working, et cetera. So we don't have people on the day of the splash pad supposed to be open, emailing, tweeting. They was tweeting us, tweeting you, tweeting me. You know, we was all getting it all at one time. Like, my splash pad's not open. I just want to see us improve from last year to this year across the board. Okay, I guess that's a yes. Is it a yes to the equity part or yes to we gonna check the splash pads in days before the openings?
So I hope by now you understand and that you know that I am all about equity. And I think that equity means something different for every community. So the same way that Councilmember Fruman advocated to have Hearst open until September, we kept Oxen Run open the same
Mhm.
because we wanted to ensure equity. And so we will not make a decision that is not equitable for everyone.
Okay. Well, maybe instead of equity, equality is the better. Can we have equality across the board as it relates to the splash pads and their early openings?
Received.
Okay. I'm, thank you. DPR park rangers, are they responsible for visiting and unlocking every DPR site first thing in the morning, 7 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. In addition to doing that, do they have any other duties? Like, do they do maintenance checks, or is it just their main responsibility is just opening the,
No, that's not their main responsibility. They do a lot. Like I said, they de-escalate, they mitigate issues. They ensure that when individuals are on our sites with amplified sounds and barbecues, that they're permitted to do so. They ensure that our sites are safe. They walk the premises. They check for potential risk areas. They are proactive in notifying level one if there's someone jumped the fence at a pool or something and we weren't notified. Our park rangers, they also work with safe passage so that our young people are not on our properties during school hours when they should be in school. That's another partnership with MPD and DCPS. So our park rangers are all throughout the city. They work on the small parks that are usually unmanned. The East Capitol Hill Metro, East Potomac Avenue, that facility, they, if someone, Columbia Heights, we work, if someone is selling something or vending on our property unpermitted, we work to correct it or, they serve bar notices. So they are the community engagement without enforcement, if that makes sense. Well, they don't have the arresting powers, but they do community engagement for some of our issues. So we don't always have to call MPD, but are also, they work with the unhoused populations and of this sort. They are our first line of defense for a lot of things.
okay. What is the, I guess I'm trying to understand, is it what DPR park rangers versus DGS security? Do you all also have DGS security within DPR properties?
We have security that you're talking about, because are you talking about DGS officers or are you talking about securities through the MOU, security officers in the facilities?
Oh, I don't know the difference between those
Are you
two.
talking about PSD? PSD through DGS, they have
Yes.
arresting powers, they're police officers.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
So that's different. And they work normally with the government buildings. Our park rangers, they work with our fields, our parks, and some of our facilities to
That's what I meant. So
support.
you all don't, PSD does not get assigned to DPR on.
Correct.
Overall, do not get assigned to any of our DPR facilities.
Correct.
So you all are relying on mainly your park rangers
Mhm.
who don't have enforcement power.
Correct. But I will say our park rangers do an excellent job of resolving issues and de-escalating issues. So for example, if there's a unauthorized barbecue at Langdon Park, if there's someone who decides to drive up on the curb, our park rangers can show up and ask the individuals to move, and they usually do.
Got it. Okay. Who's responsible for, let me think of something basic, like keeping people from running their dogs on DPR property and That's something coming. Is it DPR park rangers who do that? Or,
I would say it's a constituent's responsibility to not, allow their dogs to run throughout we have signs and say that dogs should be leashed. And we've had instances where there's been a dog bite, we've had
Yeah.
instances like those.
can park rangers issue citations of any sort? No, not for anything.
No, they don't have, they can issue bar notices.
Okay,
They work with MPD. Our park rangers work with MPD if necessary.
they do bar notices.
hmm
Okay, from a overall perspective of like, just like making sure enforcement is happening on parks, and it sounds like there's a gaping hole there because park rangers don't have much power to do much except please stop, or they can call MPD, but any other layperson could also do the same.
Yeah, I will say that people have a tendency to respect the uniform. And, they have a vehicle with the lights on it that's designated as park rangers. So, we haven't, our park rangers, and again, we have a great group of park rangers who understand, I would say they have a high degree of emotional intelligence. So they are able to work with patrons in a way that has served, has
How do
not.
they differ from roving leaders,
Roving leaders is,
or the role that roving leaders serve?
so think of the park rangers as enforcement. They have the uniform, the vehicle. And the roving leaders is the pop-up fun. So if you can take your recreation
Oh,
center
okay.
outside, that's your roving leaders.
Okay, so are they both? But are they both practiced and trained in de-escalation?
Absolutely. So your roving leaders are trained in violence prevention. There's a whole different type of training for roving leaders. There's the human development side of it. There's the problem solving, critical thinking side of it. Yeah, if you think of a roving leader as your favorite recreation person who just happens to be outside or at your school.
Got you. Okay. I think for years people thought roving leaders were sort of a part of the de-escalation.
They
Sort of, they
are.
were like the VIs of DPR.
They absolutely are. Before the term violence interrupters came, we are the mobile prevention arm. And so that is exactly what the roving leaders do.
Okay. I'd like to just talk about how we can empower our park rangers more and what that could look like. Because right now I feel like you ever see the movie Friday? Top Flight Security.
Friday making a band, I'm here.
Okay. It's like, I'm top flight security, not just of the city, but the world, Craig. It sounds like y'all gave them top flight security titles. And that's it. Y'all can't be sending them out there just as top flight. So let's discuss just what we can do more to empower our park rangers, expand it as something I'll be looking towards as we look towards budget and the rest of the year. Okay. I want to ask about community engagement,
Mhm.
okay? Because this topic has come up several times. My ward members have all, whether they came today or not, texted me about sort of their frustration with community engagement. Now, oftentimes you all do meetings that are webinar format. Sometimes the chat is open, sometimes the chat is closed. Doing these webinars, whether the chat is open or the chat is closed, and doing that does not count as community engagement. Community engagement is the opportunity for community to ask questions, have dialogue, give feedback, get real responses. Why do y'all do these webinars with closed chat group chats and think that that is community engagement?
So I'd like to counter that.
Okay.
I think that is one part of the things that we do. That is on the capital project side. But as you know, because you've come to 1,000,001 DPR events, you've walked the center with me, and you know that community engagement happens every time that we are in the field. We are attending ANC meetings. We are attending community meetings. So that is not the only form of community engagement. That level of community engagement is specific only to the capital projects format. And why do we do the online? Because what we've learned is many of our constituents who have a vested interest in our buildings that are coming to their neighborhood at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, they may be in traffic coming from work, picking the children up, and they're not necessarily able to come in person to a community meeting. They've also, because the questions that they're asking regarding those issues, they're also asking at their ANC meetings. So that is not the only form of community engagement. That's just one modality that we use as an increased access point to us. So I think that DPR does community well and community engagement well. I do hear that maybe some constituents would like to come in person, but we're always in the community.
Okay. I'd like to see when we do community engagement meetings, just more dialogue be a part of said engagement so that community can feel like actually seen and heard and not like talked at, but talked with.
So again, those are the ward by ward meetings. Also, we have project-specific meetings that are in
Those are the ones people are
person.
most frustrated about, the project specific meetings.
But those are in person. Those are not the webinars.
Well, the webinars are for the ward wide.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know, the feedback we're getting is that those are the ones where they're trying to get answers about projects and there's nothing happening and no one's answering in the chat.
No one, well, so we do respond and we have a list of, so you may have someone working the webinar, but then there's someone who's working the Q&A portion that's going and replying. And on our transcript, we show that every question has been answered. Every single question, even if it's been asked 12 times.
Got it. Okay. There seems to be a disconnect between what's being reported and what you are presenting. So somewhere in between there
Is there a project specifically that you think they may be speaking of?
Well, multiple projects, I'm gonna go to one of those projects and that's gonna be another section, which is Lafayette Pointer.
Okay.
And as a example of a project that people have been frustrated about, but I don't know, my ward members who have reached out to me have specifically said that has been a concern across the board. So I can't speak to what their specific ones are, but as it relates to which ones they have experienced that with. I wanted to ask about within community engagement, sort of how big is DPR's community engagement team? And are you all like split up by geographical location, such as like how it's done by the mayor's office of community relations staff?
So I believe that all of our recreators and our managers are part of our community engagement team. And so because
I mean, who's answering constituent services requests from each ward member? If that's a simpler way to say it.
so we have an external affairs office
Okay.
that has a chief of external affairs, a customer service team, individual that's responsible for answering our ANC members directly. And so I believe that our community engagement team, again, I don't look at it as just the office of the external affairs office. I look at it as the whole, and I say that because all of our managers know that they are required to attend ANC meetings when many community meetings happen in our facilities.
That's true.
So we're at the table often.
Got it. I will say, what would be helpful, what I've heard from feedback from my colleagues and their constituent services staffs is, a wanting of someone to be assigned to answering emails as it relates to constituent services issues as they come into ward members. So if there's some way to delineate that, whether it's whichever team you want to, external affairs team or engagement team, whoever you want to do that, I think across the ward members and their constituent services teams would like some clarity of who they should be going to. I don't think every ward, constituent services coordinators are not going to come to you or
Correct.
your higher staff. So I think they're just looking for their connect person when issues arise for DPR centers in their ward.
We will do an FAQ for you and your colleagues
Okay.
that will solve for that, so you'll know exactly. And so I'm hearing this as a theme.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to respond to this and make sure that we are all on the same page, we'll do a FAQ and we'll post it online that will, your person will be different than what the community has, but we will make sure that they understand who they should reach out. I think we have a DPR External Affairs email as well that we will publicize.
Okay. That would be great. As far as DPR permitting goes, and in your responses, you stated that permits are on a first come, first serve basis. How do you ensure that community has time to utilize the space in addition to whatever permits you are allocating? For example, I think Councilman Parker spoke to this, we got testimony from Brentwood, for example, that oftentimes their space that they want to use as a community is often permitted and there's never enough time for community members just to do it. Is it first come, first served basis, and what is done to ensure there is community time to utilize spaces outside of it being permitted back to back?
So there's a rubric, almost like an order. So first come is school activities. Then there's longstanding community. So for example, like the Capitol Hill Little League, who has been using Randall for years. So they are priority over someone who wants to use it, who's never used it before. So there's
So there is some prioritization.
Oh,
within the
absolutely.
permitting.
Absolutely.
And in what way does prioritization, does it change? I guess if they permit it all the time, at that time, then community just gets used to the fact that they'll never have access to that field or court or whatever it is. I forgot which one it was for
So we saw
Brentwood.
Edgewood in
Edgewood,
particular.
yes.
Edgewood is really popular with soccer, with football,
Mhm.
even with the gym, there's a volleyball. And so what we did, we set up community access hours. So after a certain time, we do not permit it at all.
Okay, that's what I was
to
asking.
anyone
Got it.
to solve for that. We also recognize that, again, there's a lot, we've seen a surge in popularity in our facilities. Edgewood is one that sees about 10,000 people a month just in the fitness center.
Wow.
And so, people are taking advantage of their free resources, which is
For
their right to work out, their privilege of working out at their recreation facility. And so we know that we're working through that. I'm working with the community. Also, for years, that community was very, very heavy in football, and now soccer has a heavy presence. And
That's right.
so I'm just working through all of those things. And ensuring that the community at the end of the day has access to their amenities.
Got it. So we have a prioritization tool, but there is also community access hours as a way to balance permitting at locations. Can I ask, we've heard some feedback about permitting fees. Have permitting fees gone up?
Our permitting fees are so nominal. It's like $5, $7.
Why am I hearing people say $200?
DCPS has a different scale. than
think
DPR.
Twice this has happened where someone has wanted to use a DPR space for, is bereavement the right word?
So, mhm.
Bereavement, I think is the right
Mhm.
word there. Repast.
Mhm.
Okay, there we go. That's the word I was searching. And they've said that the fee has been hundreds of dollars to do. Why?
That is correct.
Why?
Because oftentimes it's overtime, the cost for the manpower to set up the room the way that the family would like. There's overtime, there's staff cost involved and having someone man the facility. And so it still is a very nominal cost when you think about 200 or whatever the flat fee is. Not something very nominal for a space for up to 4 hours. And in instances where individuals, we ask, they can ask for a waiver. So we don't deny access to anyone. They get the permit and it has the fee on it. And if it's a problem, they can ask that it's waived. But again, it's something really, really nominal.
Okay. Well, some people might consider 200 nominal and some people not. I'm not here to judge whether 200 is nominal. Is the fee, is the fee flat rate though? Meaning it doesn't change? Like if I
Correct.
ask for a repass at Briggs LaSalle, it's the same price as a repass at Emory Heights.
Our fees are regulated.
They're regulated.
They're
Okay.
regulated. So the only time that the cost, you have to pay for the staff cost that's associated with the overtime for us to operationalize the event.
Okay. Can you get us a copy of, like, I guess the fee, the rate fees for those things so that I'm not getting emails of people screaming that they got to pay $200 for a repass?
So, and there are base packages that they can add. So I'll get it to you. It's a flat rate, but it changes based on
And it's the cost of
decor.
staff, et cetera,
Yes,
is
setting up
is
correct.
why we're charging that.
Correct.
Okay.
And I will say, we have a link, I will send it to you because you may get this request of sites where families can choose where they can have their repass. That's something that's also standardized.
Got it. Okay. I see DPR is a member of the Artificial Turf Working Group. What does that working group do and who at DPR participates?
Yes, ma'am. I was a participant on that working group.
Mhm.
I want to say it's been a while since we've met, but that was a group that met probably pre-COVID up to about when COVID started, to go through sort of the pros and cons of turf versus grass and it's different protocols and standards and things like that. But it's been a while since that task force has met, to my knowledge.
Okay, so is that task force sunset? I mean, it no longer exists anymore?
As far as I know, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
As it relates to artificial turf, were there any reports that came or recommendations that came out of the artificial turf working group?
There were. I think that's all of mine. All the information is online, but essentially there was there wasn't we should use this or that. It was if we do have turf, there should be a system to close fields if it's a super hot day because of health concerns related to heat. I know that was a big outcome of that. But a lot of it was getting community feedback on what a specific community would like to see in their neighborhood. And so that was a big portion of it. But we've got that information is somewhere public, and I can
Okay,
find that and make
if you
sure
can
have
direct
it.
us to that, that would be great.
Sure.
Speaking of turf, Lafayette Pointer. We are overall frustrated as a community around Lafayette recreation and field. We had several witnesses about the Lafayette Field project. We've spoken as well about this, Director. I want to focus on sort of one, what community members feel is not real community engagement around that project. And two, refusal of DPR to insert the field that was budgeted for, a natural grass field that was budgeted for, the natural grass field that community asked for, and accordingly to community members, there was at some point announcement years ago that it would be a grass field. I guess why, and the council did emergency legislation. I understand some portions of this is DGS, but this still is, Lafayette Pointer is still DPR. So as it relates to the soil erosion project and the replacement field, where is DPR at today?
Sure. So that erosion project is in the closeout stages. It's almost complete. And as I'm sure you're familiar, the water flows downhill from DPR's property onto the area in front of the school, which is the field. I think in question. That's a DCPS field.
Right.
It's not DPR permits the field, but we don't own it. And you're correct that the community wanted that to stay grass. I think the intention was that to keep that as grass. So that project is almost complete. We're going to have a phase 2 of that project that starts up on further up the hill, sort of they call it the upper field area, to do some soil remediation. I think we have $2 million in this fiscal year to do that work, and we have committed to having 3 public meetings.
Okay,
to
great.
discuss
That's what I
that.
was asking.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll have 3 public community meetings to discuss what happens on the upper field.
Exactly.
The work that has happened on the field currently that's being closed out, that's going to prevent the issues that we're experiencing on the lower field, the soil erosion issues on the lower field. Is that correct? Is it that's the aim of it? Is that what's going to happen?
It's all sort of correlated, right? Right. The big thing is that there was just a ton of water flowing down that hill, and so the first phase was to mitigate the water from flowing onto the field. So they've rearranged or they have regraded it, put in some bioretention to slow down that water from just cascading onto the field. So that first phase is almost complete, and you're right. So the second phase will help mitigate the amount of water that's just sheet flowing down the hill to that field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is DPR, is it going to be DPR or DGS who ultimately makes the decision regarding whether that is going to be a turf field or a natural grass field?
So the upper field area is going to, everything there is going to continue to be grass.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll all be natural grass.
Natural grass, right. We do have honestly some issues with dogs off leash on the area, and I think we're going to have to sort of work with the community to sort of curb some of the behavior. Not behavior, but I think there's soccer games and other things that sort of beat the grass down, almost
Yeah.
like the National Mall where we need to cordon areas off to keep it
Right. To keep it where it needs to be.
from being dirt, essentially, right?
But DPR hasn't sort of wholesale said they're no longer going to do natural grass fields as a overall. There are going to be natural grass fields a part of its portfolio, and then some turf fields as a part of its portfolio. There's no wholesale sort of stop on natural grass fields as it relates to DPR fields.
No.
Okay.
No.
I want to ask about some more KPIs. We did customer service. Again, I talked about this, but it noted that in fiscal year 24 KPIs, 98.2% of equipment in fitness centers, tech lounges, and computer labs, pools, and other amenities is functioning. Does DPR have a complete inventory list of every piece of equipment that contributes to that KPI? And is this inventory inspected annually? It's the KPIs regarding equipment in fitness centers, tech lounges, and computer labs, sort of your overall equipment that you maintain across the portfolio.
So our equipment is inspected daily.
Okay.
And what I mean, so as part of the opening and closing reports, staff are responsible for indicating equipment failures. And so if there's an issue with any piece of equipment, staff has the first line of defense to kind of work through, try to attempt to mitigate.
Okay. I want to ask about DPR's fiscal year 24 KPIs revealed the number of nights with late night operating hours has significantly decreased in fiscal year, recent years. So from 38 in fiscal year 22 to 20 in fiscal year 23 and just 10 in fiscal year 24. What is the reason for this decrease? Is it a resource issue or is DPR making a policy choice for late night community programming?
We wanted to be intentional about where we hosted late night events. And so we partner with MPD. So we made our events bigger. And so we broadened the scope by partnering with MPD.
Okay, so then what's this, why are we seeing these decreasing numbers over the years?
You mean the number of activations?
It's the number of nights with late night operating hours has significantly decreased.
So I think we hosted, like, again, I know in maybe 23, we may have, we started our late night hypes in February and maybe went to August. Last year, we started them in May. What we notice is our young people in the wintertime are more indoors, and so they weren't necessarily coming out. The need was greater in the summer to have them outside. And so again, we increased our capacity at those times, and we just looked at the numbers and how we could best serve.
Got it. Okay, so it just sounds like that number might be a little off as far as responses go, and you all can get back to me of sort of what that number is truly representative of, with that specific KPI. DPR says grant applications are reviewed by internal and external reviewers. Who are the internal reviewers and who are the external reviewers?
It's a mix of people. We put out a call to professionals with asking for resumes of individuals who have grant reviewing experience to support. And we have internal staff members who may know the community, who can speak to, because an external reviewer may not know how valuable a community partner is to the neighborhood. And so the internal staff members are able to kind of support with that. And so there's a panel of 3. They review them individually, and then they come back and have a consensus scoring.
Okay. And then are reviewers screened for conflicts of interest, and if so, how so?
Absolutely.
Okay. DPR conducts 1 or 2 monitoring visits for programming grants. It's what you stated. Who conducts these visits? And are the grant recipients notified in advance? And if so, why or why not?
So it's a partnership. So absolutely, they're notified of we work with them because all grantees don't start at the same time. Because it's not, for example, it's not an out of school time grant where programming is happening every day after school from 3 to 6. And so our a programming grant could be for a specific time in the summer or on a Sunday. I think about Swim to Code, which was happening on a Sunday. So it is defined, and we have a chief of Rec for All that supports with technical assistance to grantees that are awarded, assist with making sure our grantees respond and provide reports, making sure if they say that they're going to make sugar, they're making sugar and not making salt.
Got it. I just think for, as you move forward and thinking about sort of that, I think I don't know what's best, but I don't, if we're doing monitoring reviews, I think maybe you could do one where they know they're being monitored and another where they're not being monitored. Know they're not being monitored, just to get a true understanding. Is a report or other documentation of findings created for these visits? The monitoring
Absolutely.
visits?
Absolutely. And so when we look at it, we don't look at it as a deficit mindset or a gotcha. We look at it more as you're a community partner who's doing this. So we're coming and we're excited about the work that you do. And so we're also getting surveys from the participants and the families. We're speaking with them so we know exactly what's happening. So we're doing anecdotal as well as, capturing what's happening in real time.
Okay. I want to ask about, I'm looking at the mixed bag numbers for the Roving Leaders Program, and I'm hoping to, I guess, get some context, because I think it could just be the numbers. In fiscal year 24, Roving Leaders made 2,901 school visits, which is down 24% from fiscal year 23, which was 3,829. I'm interested in sort of why that is. In fiscal year 24, Roving Leaders made 422 playground visits, down 38% from fiscal year 23, which was 3,925. I want to understand what's happening there. And then in fiscal year 24, there were 11 mobile rec center deployments, down 71% from fiscal year 23 to 38. Why is that? I guess I'm seeing decreases in those percentages, but then despite these decreases, it says the number of at-risk youth connected through Roving Leaders services increased by 5,233 or 4% from fiscal year 23. So can you give some context to those numbers?
Sure. So we had some Summer Plus funding in 23 and some ARPA funding that allowed us to do a lot more, even with our late night hypes as well. And so we had to redirect based on the funding that expired through the ARPA dollars.
Got it. Okay, so it's more just the funding mechanisms changed. What we saw, I see, but I think what I was saying is despite the decreases, it looked like the number of at-risk youth connected through Roving Leaders increased by about 5,233 or 4% from fiscal year 23. What do we attribute to that increase in services while reduction in visits?
More youth are understanding who we are and how we can serve them.
Okay.
And so, again, as our presence has grown in the community, we're able to touch and save more lives. And so we're proud of that.
Got it. I see fiscal year 24 had 412 more mobile recreation activations than fiscal year 23. Is DPR newly prioritizing mobile recreation activations over visits to schools and playgrounds and mobile rec center deployments? And if so, why?
So the mobile activations that we're doing are actually happening outside of the schools. That's one of the things that I talked about, like as part of Safe Passage, we're doing pop-ups outside of school. So when young people get out of school and they come out, we have the popcorn, the snow cones, and some music. We're bringing our skate mobiles right to the schools on the corners. That allows us to allow young people to get engaged, and then we can streamline as they begin to walk home or begin to go their path. We've noticed that this helps our Safe Passage team have more eyes on them, because they're gathered there, and then we know when they're leaving. So that has proved to be something hugely successful. So I truly appreciate Danielle Hunter, Chief of Roving Leaders, for her idea to do that.
Got it. I guess as if that seems to be something that's working really well, then continuing to do that and expand it would be, I think, where we want to go. Especially because mobile activations are truly bringing DPR to your most vulnerable residents or neighborhoods who need that type of buildup and community. We had a few testimony about revitalizing Stanton Park community overall to a national park relationship. Have you already started doing work with Stanton Park Community Group to support their, work with National Park Services to make the improvements that need to happen there?
We haven't. Actually, that was the first I'd heard much
Okay.
about Stanton Park, which is, belongs to MPS. But we are working in coordination with folks here in this building, the mayor's office and the city administrator, about potential CMAs and TOJs between the district and MPS on certain properties.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I know that relationship is there. I mean, Councilman Parker already talked about it, but in Fort Totten, we're doing the same thing. So just DPR has to work, that's fine, has to work with National Park Service. And so want to just make sure you all are a part of that conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to ask you about, there seems to be this overall theme right now regarding my colleagues and capital projects and timelines. I think Councilmember Allen was trying to get to it. Councilman Parker's mentioned it. Ward 1 and Ward 2 have also mentioned these things to me. Does DPR acknowledge that there's these delays in capital projects? And what are you all doing? What is the cause of these delays? And if you're understanding, go first with what are the cause of these delays?
Sure. So this is always, so I'm the capital projects person, so this is always something I think about. But when I started, so I started 15 years ago, we had, I think, 10 total capital projects.
Mm-hmm.
Today we have 150. So I envision this as an airport where we have so many airplanes that are on the runway that need to take off, but we have only so many only so many runways, I think, to get the products off the
Got
ground.
it.
And
So we're funding and creating projects at a level where we actually don't have capacity to sort of
it,
get them all done.
it's a lot. It's a lot, but I think it's something we welcome though. I think I mean, the more products, the more we can better serve the folks in the district. What some things we're doing, for instance, the splash pad blitz project. There were several splash pads in need of work. We
Mhm.
combined those products into one contract in order to be efficient with both taxpayer dollars and the sites that we can hit with a contractor. So I think we're trying to do that both with ADA upgrades, playground improvements, anything that's a relatively smaller project. We're trying to combine those into what we call blitz packages, and that could be another one is netting for the netting around the city.
Oh, great. We need a netting blitz.
We do.
Let me know when the netting blitz is going down.
It's going down. It's good. So we
Okay.
have Chevy Chase is a going down.
Right.
Guy Mason is up there.
Wonderful.
Upshur, I think was on the list, but there's several of those products like that. So I think we've been sort of not a victim of our own success, but we've had
Mm-hmm.
such great product. We just continue to get funding and projects, and we welcome that. I think it's just I think it is a bit of an issue as far as our capacity to move things along. And DPR, nobody gets more frustrated when things don't move. We're public servants. We want things to move along. So we're always pushing. DGS is pushing. It never seems to happen as fast as you want it to happen.
Got it. I like the idea of doing blitz to deal with some of the major issues across the portfolio. So, I think netting's one. Some of the gates, we used to have issues with it. I've raised it with DGS around playgrounds. The gates always loosen. Not sure what that is, but I think it needs a blitz, as well. Shade structures is another issue that has come up. Where are we, shade structures has come up because I know, for example, Riggs LaSalle has been waiting for their shade structure for a long time. Sort of, I want to know where we are with Riggs LaSalle shade structure, but overall, where are we with sort of getting shade structures as a part of overall improvement amongst the entire portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. That's become such a huge issue. Not become, but it's been a huge issue for us. So with every playground we build, we try to incorporate as much shade as possible. Sometimes we can't because it exceeds the project budget we have, so we have to go back and supplement.
That's what's happening.
Like
Okay.
at Riggs LaSalle, which is supposed to be done this spring before it gets super hot.
I'm gonna write that down.
That's the latest I had on that project, probably late spring. But we actually dedicated our entire general improvements pooled budget specifically to address shade in the district. So that's, in other words, another blitz project is installing more shade structures throughout the district, including Riggs LaSalle.
Got it. Jelif came up in conversations during testimony. And I think the ask and the question was whether there could be another community meeting regarding where we are, what's happening with Jelif, and I guess will you all agree to a community meeting regarding progress on Jelif?
Yes, ma'am. For all of our large capital projects, we have 5 in-person community meetings. I think we have had 2 for Jelif, so the third one I think is being scheduled for this spring.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, one thing that keeps coming up, and this came up with DGS and DPR, is people being like, we're waiting on permits. How are we waiting on permits from the district government in which we are the district government?
It's a
Like,
good-
if I own the permits, if I'm permitting,
Right.
if I have permitting authority and it's my project, I'm gonna get the permit through. Is there not some governmental preference for permits?
Usually the permit request, if I'm not mistaken, the vendor is working through those permits. So it's a contractor.
It can be different things. It can be permits from a builder, or it could be something like at Emory, the field in Emory, where we're literally working with DOEE to obtain a permit to replace that field. And we do have to get the permit from DOEE to actually start the project.
Okay.
So sometimes that can take quite a while. There's different rounds of comments we have
But
to
I don't
respond to.
understand how permits are taking while from our sister government agencies are taking a long time. Like, if I was waiting on something from Councilmember Parker, I would just go and walk right on down to Councilmember Parker office and say, excuse me, can I get this right now? I'm not understanding how within district government
I get you.
this is happening, not just for you all, but everybody. DGS is saying the same thing to me. We're taking a long time for permits. And I'm like, you are your sister agency is permitting. So I guess I'm not understanding where the breakdown is happening with permits.
In fairness to those agencies, we don't get preferential treatment. So if we did, then I think the community would say, well, so I think there's we're all going through the process together.
Okay, well, maybe I need to advocate for a government preferential treatment for permits, because this is happening across all portfolios, including DGS. I mean, the archives is an example where they're like, we've been waiting on permits. I'm like, how are you waiting on permits? What delaying projects? We're gonna cost ourselves more money when we're paying with government money to get the project done, is what I'm saying. Okay, understood. Now I'm gonna put on my Ward 4 hat for just a moment, and you already have my list of Ward 4 projects you told me. So this should be quick and easy. Upshur. Where are we in the Upshur
Upshur,
portion of the project?
right. So we just had we just had our third community meeting. So we have had 3 of 5 community meetings. We have a design that the community has seen. I think we've gotten really positive feedback. So at this point, we anticipate a construction start, according to my notes, this fall. So later this fall.
Okay,
Which will take about, I would imagine usually typically 12 to 16 months.
okay,
When we're demoing existing facilities and building back in the same footprint. So that takes us to about winter of 2026 for completion.
okay. If Upshur's not starting to the fall, does that mean Upshur Pool will be activated for this summer?
It does. It'll be
Okay.
online.
And so it's basically right after, when that closes, that's when we'll see when we'll start the project for that will happen that fall, right after pool season's over.
It may not be right after, but it would be in the fall months. And once we get, it's tough because once we get closer, we have to get permits.
Here we go. I told you, back to this
Um,
permit. Go ahead, keep going.
And so that's why we try to keep I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's just fine.
But yeah,
It's-
the
not
closer
cute.
we get to the actual date, it's frustrating because the closer we get to the date, the more information we have to give the public. So right now we're trying to keep it as fall 2025.
Got it. Emory Heights Recreation Center.
Oh, the-
It's also scheduled for modernization. Where are we in that process? Because they haven't had their community meetings yet, is my understanding.
We had one meeting December 9th, but I think it was to talk about that project and the field both. So I
Yeah.
think it was a pretty broad meeting. So right now, DGS is hiring a design build firm, and once they are hired, we'll come back out to the community, likely this spring, later in the spring, because we want the design builder to hear directly from the community about what
Okay.
their wants and needs are for the facility. And
Okay, so the design builder is not gonna present.
no, they
Okay,
have
thank
no
God.
preconceived anything. So
Please, thank
yeah,
you.
yes,
That's all
ma'am.
I wanted to know. Okay, great. So Emory community should expect a next community meeting with the design build person in or about,
This spring at some point,
Spring.
and we'll keep folks updated.
okay,
Mhm.
great. Riggs LaSalle testified, and Tisha had a long list. I'm sure you all will go through that list, but the main things were the shade, the HVAC, roof, et cetera. All of that stuff is supposed to be happening now. Is that happening.
It is. It
Okay, and
is.
then the ADA door, she mentioned an ADA door as well. The other thing that has come up with Riggs LaSalle and other seniors in my ward is that we keep switching staff for seniors. And seniors don't like when you switch staff. They like the one group of people, like they love their people, and if you move their people or switch their people, they take it personally. What are we doing to keep our staffing consistent for servicing our seniors across the city, but particularly in Ward 4?
We like using our staff, and we like to shuffle them as necessary.
See, that's what I'm saying. They don't like the
to,
shuffle.
What they do like is programming, robust programming that provides them an opportunity to be engaged. And we're doing that. And you've heard me say this before. That is not it doesn't have to be one single staff member that does it. So, we like having the ability for our staff to flow throughout the city.
Understood. I'm gonna just repeat that my seniors don't like shuffles. And if you could try to accommodate them in some way, that would be appreciated.
But they love to learn new things. So if I have a staff member who makes shea butter and that staff member is coming to make shea, they love that. So,
As budget arises, we've had a number of seniors ask for upgrades in their rooms.
yes.
For me, I guess I'm trying to figure out how would that be funded if people want upgrades? Like
Yeah,
their senior rooms upgraded. What is that considered? I don't think it's considered a small capital project, but what would it be considered?
I think it's a beautification project
Okay.
because they want sofas and they're so specific. We want black microwaves. We tired of looking at the stainless steel. We want this to match.
Right.
So it sounds like a beautification project.
Got it.
Actually, I think that this is an opportunity for our partnership office to maybe go out in the community and meet with some of these businesses and have a senior room sponsored by such and such and such and such. And so there's a local business in your area that would like to maybe sponsor the cost, or maybe, to redo the room. I think that would go a long way.
Okay. So some small projects are going to be coming. I funded some funding for Tacoma,
Mm-hmm.
for the locker room in Tacoma. Is there an update on our Tacoma locker room upgrades?
It looks like it's still in the procurement phases to hire the design build firm, but we do have the $482,000 that you put in the budget. Yes, it's going through the procurement stages to hire someone to do that work.
Okay, so it's in procurement.
Yes,
Got
ma'am.
it. Okay. My other ask is for the playground at Lamond. I put funding in for the playground at Lamond. What is the status of Lamond's playground?
It's almost the same exact thing. Looking to hire a design build firm to do that work, but we will actually want to have community meetings with the folks that use the facility to get their
Okay.
feedback on. I know it's a small playground, but we do want to get their some feedback on the look and feel of the playground. If there's a theme, the things we talk about with every community for a playground renovation.
Okay, great. I will, go through the rest of the list with you all separately just for the sake of time for Ward 4, but wanted those on the record because public is watching and who've asked for updates on those particular projects. I want to end a little bit on the disability rights piece of this again. We've discussed sort of ADA door issues across the board with DPR centers. I would just like it if you all could just do a portfolio-wide check of sort of ADA compliance, particularly with accessibility as it relates to seniors, and give us like some type of update on where you are. Either I'll have a hearing on it or you all can just give me an update on where you are with making those corrections.
Sure, absolutely. And the document that I referenced earlier, our ADA transition document,
Mhm.
includes all of that information for
Okay.
every facility. And it was informed by the Office of Disability Right inspections that were given to us, as well as third-party inspections we used to gather that information. So happy to share that.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. Give me 1 second just to make sure I have everything. I see if I'm gonna let y'all out of here. Look at everybody looking at the looking at the watch like, are you finished or are you done? Um, I'm messing with you. Oh, do you all do any training on ADA training for your DPR staff? And if so, when do you do it and what does that entail?
It's ongoing training. We do ongoing training for our staff. We also host what is called Camp University for our seasonal hires to ensure that they understand what ADA compliance looks like, and also how to be adaptive recreators.
Okay. I think we had some testimony about people just wanting to feel more, people have more not adaptive learning, DPR spaces, adaptive programming. When we come back next year, I would love to see sort of an increase in adaptive programming and really addressing and looking to those issues. Going through the list. You talked about that. Okay. Director, do you have a closing statement that you would like to give?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of the DC Department of Parks and Recreation. I'd like to thank Mayor Bowser, Deputy Mayor Paul Kine for their support. I'd also like to thank the executive leadership team at DPR, James Washington, Ashley Williams, Gina Toppin, Marcus Coates, Hakeem Rogers, our roving leaders, our Natasha Herring, who's in the thick of camp, Michael Watts, who oversees all of our recreation facilities, Hannah, Danielle. I'd like to acknowledge them for all of the work that they do. We have a phenomenal team, our GC, Amy Kaspari, and our fiscal officer, Rosemary Chiwash. We have an awesome team who works tirelessly to ensure that the residents are served. And so I'm grateful, and also to the comms team for putting together and telling our story so that some of the work is evident. So I'm truly appreciative, and thank you so much, Hannah Baker.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Freeman, to your team that you have present. And especially just thank you to all the DPR staff. You all are people get represented here, but as you know, your staff across the DPR portfolio work day in, day out, serving district residents. As public servants, we're dealing with public servants on the national level on being under attack. I want to be clear here in the district, we value our public servants that keep this city going, particularly our Parks and Recreation that really have provided a safe place for adults, children, and seniors alike. So thank you to the DPR staff on the working the day in and day out in our centers at our programs. We collectively appreciate you here in the District of Government. This concludes the government witness portion of our annual performance oversight hearing for the Department of Parks and Recreation. For the public, if you would like to submit written testimony for the record, please do so by 5 p.m. on Monday, March 4th by uploading it to the council's hearing management system. The time is 2:13 p.m. and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good.